seconds. There we go. We are off. So yeah, as I've already alluded to, this is Hero Story. New game specifically, no New Game Plus play here, and our runners are beginning with City Escape, with one of the only boarding sections of the game, and this only lasts for the best part of 30 seconds in the first place, but right after the runners get through this initial section, they're actually going to have an opportunity for one of the biggest skips in the entire game, which is very difficult to land. I don't think we expect either runner to land it, albeit I'm sure they'll give it an attempt, and in the event that they do manage to land it, they'll be saving the best part of 30 seconds.
Indeed, it's a very, very nice time buffer to have, especially, it would definitely do miles for Tylenol right now, because he is, you know, kind of the one who's expected to have to struggle a bit more here.
He's got the ramp jump, and he doesn't have it, unfortunately. Neither of our runners have it. Okay, so we have got an even level race right now, at the very least. Both of our runners are going to have to do the same route through City Escape, which is quite a bit more of a dangerous route as well, so there is room for taking a hefty death after the skyscraper section.
Yeah, we've already seen that once this tournament.
Yeah, at least once. Both of our runners struggling a little getting off the rails and navigating the slightly convoluted area before the skyscraper, but they seem to be about equal going down, which is a very nice start.
I don't know if I'm watching two of the same feed or two different players.
Yeah, wow, this is very nicely balanced so far. Tylenol struggling a little with his rail cornering. Like, it's a little bit of a tricky thing to really get down, going around rails quickly. The same thing happening to Jazz. Both of our runners do seem to be making minor stumbling errors in the same spot, which is actually managing to keep things relatively equal. And I do expect to see both runners making varying degrees of errors on this truck section, as it is a difficult part of the stage to play cleanly. The thing about this truck section is it really showcases how quick movement is achieved with Sonic in this game. You want to just spin dash down hills and maintain that spin dash, but there's hills periodically strewn throughout that section, and if you're going too quickly over them, then you are likely to just fly into the air, which slows you down by a lot.
Indeed. Coming up, we got Bigfoot. You're going to be seeing both the runners here jumping on the box in the top left and just kind of bopping Bigfoot on the head 4 times. Hopefully nothing goes wrong. Of course, now that I've said that. But,
yeah. We normally expect this split to go at a similar pace pretty much every time, assuming no big mistakes are made. And if that's the case, then Tylenol will be entering the next stage about 10 seconds ahead of Jazz, but that is a time save that could either entirely disappear or even possibly be reversed after the next stage, since we're going straight from this into the first Knuckles stage. And the Knuckles stages in this run are very RNG heavy, where you need to find 3 pieces of the Master Emerald throughout the stage. They are randomly generated, and the runners just use hints to help look for them, as well as looking out for any free pieces that are just hanging out in the stage. So being that these stages are random, as I said, Tylenol is in the lead right now. There is no guarantee that he's going to still have that lead by the end of the stage.
Indeed. I do actually have to say that I know Jazz to be a rather experienced Knuckles player, so I think she definitely has a bit of an advantage when it comes to these stages over Tylenol.
Yeah, if we're going to talk in terms of how the players perform on relative characters, I would say that Jazz is stronger at Knuckles, and we see here that she has managed to claw back most of the time difference. Tylenol with a 33 and Jazz with a 26, so that does make up most of the difference between them, as I mentioned.
Indeed.
So they are about 2 seconds apart, it looks like, going into Eggman 1. Not Eggman 2, that would be quite a skip if you managed to go from here straight to Eggman 2. And I'm definitely expecting them to be similarly together by the end of this boss, as it really hardly even counts as a boss fight. You just face forward and pretty much just shoot him to death. And there is quite little that can actually go wrong in this fight. There we go. Wow. This is not bad at all.
Oh, jeez.
You want to tell us about Tails a little bit?
Well, Tails is interesting. Tails has a lot of challenges maintaining momentum. Well, really, that's the main challenge of playing him. You're going to be seeing them hop around sharp corners. This is to preserve momentum. Because when you take a sharp corner on the ground, you just kind of stall. And that's no good. But on top of that, in this stage...
Tylenol taking an early death.
Ooh. That rail is not nice. It does that to a lot of people.
Yeah, he had what it seemed to be the presence of mind to attempt a recovery as well, but it just wasn't enough to bring him back onto terra firma, as it were. He's taking a second death, actually, near the start of the stage. This is a rough start for Tylenol.
Oh, that beetle. What a jerk.
I believe that happened to Tommy not too long ago, actually. Not necessarily in the tournament, but it can happen, these things. Uncommon as they are, and every runner obviously wants a tournament race like this to be the last place that things like this happen, but sometimes things like that just can't be avoided. Although Jazz does have a hefty lead right now, this is the type of run and the type of race especially where it is absolutely not over until it is actually over, so do not count Tylenol out quite yet.
You know, one thing I'm noticing really is that Tylenol's movement is a lot more refined since the last time I saw him play. So he's definitely been going hard on that practice.
Yeah, as I say, he's a runner that definitely knows how to improve, and I think with the competitive Smash mindset that you mentioned before, I think it's likely that whatever game he's playing, he probably just knows how to analyze his own play and find his weaknesses and find out how to improve them.
Indeed.
Jazz, similarly, definitely knows how to improve her own weaknesses, since, as you said, she's very experienced with this game, and it's quite analytical, I think, in looking at how the game works and how the mechanics of the game work, and how to try and get the most out of them. Because I definitely see her practicing a lot.
Indeed. That's certainly true. Metal Harbor is pretty mean, but before we get to that, I guess we forgot to explain what gate hops were, didn't we? I guess we got one last one coming up here for an explanation. Hop onto the gate, hop onto the other gate, and hop into the area. There's two of those, saves like 3 seconds each.
Yeah, the TLDR of Prison Lane's gimmick is that there are lots of locked doors throughout the stage which are guarded by specific enemies. So when you destroy the enemies, the doors unlock or the gates come down, and there's a couple of spots where we can use that for mini skips, which you saw throughout that stage. Though, as Piner mentioned, we are now on to Sonic's next stage, Metal Harbor, in which both of our runners get the first upgrade for Sonic. Jazz already has it, the Light Shoes, which allows the runners to light dash across trails of rings. Sometimes it can be extremely helpful, sometimes it can be a little less helpful, and there are spots where the runners definitely want to aim for it, and spots where the runners want to really try and hold it.
Indeed.
Both runners actually struggled a little with the first big spin dash jump across the Trail of Beetles, but no real harm done. Jazz maintaining about a 50-second lead right now, judging by the timers.
Very comfortable. Something to note about Metal Harbor is that it's still very, very possible that we'll be seeing a death here. Deaths are very common, very, very tough stage with a lot of big jumps over huge kill planes, and it's kind of stressful.
Who would die at the end of Metal Harbor like that?
Not me.
Who could possibly manage that in a tournament race?
Yeah, definitely didn't happen to my opponent earlier. We love you, Trader.
Tylenol is struggling a little with this rocket platform skip. This is a sloped spin dash jump that we use to just get right up to the top of the rocket platform and avoid having to go all the way around it. It's a good example of how Sonic's momentum and overall mechanics work in this game, where the game really does pay attention to the direction that you're facing and the gravity that you're supposed to have. And if you're standing on a slope, then you're going to have a lot more upward momentum when you perform a jump with some forward momentum, if that makes sense. And this can be used in a lot of places, as I say, on a upward slope to gain a lot of extra height, or it can also be used on a downward slope to gain less height than you'd normally do with some extra forward momentum.
Barely made it.
Jazz just dispatching of Shadow fairly quickly. So she manages to maintain this lead so far, and is actually asking in the chat right now whether to go for Wall Run. But oof,
Dude,
dangerous game that, letting chat dictate the strats you're going to go for, because wall run is definitely not a freebie.
Hey, that's that blue hedgehog again of all places. I found you.
I'm currently opening the chat right now to tell her to do it.
If she gets the aforementioned wall run, she definitely stands to save, depending on the strat that she goes for while on the wall, up to 20 seconds. But it is not an easy trick, as I mentioned. There are multiple ways for it to go wrong. Even just getting on the tree to initiate the wall run is difficult in itself. And even though there is a checkpoint right before it, so individual deaths aren't that costly, with repeated attempts and repeated failures, the time loss really starts stacking up quickly. So I would expect her, if she is going for it, to go for one attempt. And if it doesn't go very well, I don't expect her to give it a repeat attempt, but we'll see.
Only time will tell.
What are you doing? Hurry and get back here right now before the island blows up with you on it!
Blows up.
The start of Green Forest looks to have been a little patchy for Jazz, but she's still getting through in one piece, which is still commendable in Green Forest. There are a lot of places in the start of Green Forest die. The first loop skip especially, it's the camera tends to be very unfriendly there. She takes a nice little backup as she tried to use a very small time save on hitting one of those springs but missed it, so just progressed normally. And yeah, this is exactly what I mean about just getting on the wall being a challenge in itself. There are plenty of ways that you can hit that loop speed trigger, which is what allows you to fly sideways, and her angle while entering it after spin dashing off the side just wasn't quite correct, and that can just send you careening straight into the water. So as I expected, giving it one attempt, not getting it, and she's just going on as normal, which I think is a wise decision. Tylenol himself is coming up on the same section, though I don't think that Tylenol attempts wall run. I could be surprised, but we'll see.
A little bit of a stage-specific thing to mention about Green Forest is that there are tons of hills. Like, we're past most of them. Oh, okay.
He just bailed out.
Understandable.
That was not going to work. Thankfully, he didn't hit the loop speed trigger in such a way that it was going to force him into the water, so he just missed it entirely and then decided to carry on as normal. Definitely the correct decision under these circumstances.
Yeah. But, lots of hills to fly off of with Sonic, because when you have a lot of speed, well, as Draco had mentioned before, the game really does care about your angle on a slope and whatnot, your speed, and it's really easy to just kind of fly into the sky. An unfortunate, very, very unfortunate death.
Yeah. His camera just got stuck on the inside of the half pipe when attempting bungee skip, and unfortunately not all the runners seem to be aware that you can actually force the camera to follow you there by tapping the left camera button, which will force it through, as the game uses an automatic camera mode in a lot of spots. And then by changing the camera manually, you can force it into a free camera mode where it will just try to follow you at a regular interval. So if you do that in specific spots, you can basically force the camera to unstick itself. But unfortunately, I don't think Tylenol really knew how to apply that. And so he was trying to figure out where to go without the aid of the camera, but ended up quite too far left of where he needed to be. Jazz, meanwhile, is in Pumpkin Hill, second knuckle stage. Gone towards a second piece already and got it, so now she's needing to go towards a third piece. The RNG doesn't look like it's been too friendly, and yeah, this is definitely not a great third piece, so I don't think she'll be happy with this Pumpkin Hill, but as I mentioned, this is almost entirely RNG, the type of times that you get in these stages, so the runner sometimes just can't really hold themselves to account for getting a good or a bad time, though 55 is definitely a below average Pumpkin Hill.
Indeed. You're probably going to be seeing, you know, somewhere in the range of 45s to 50s, just on average here.
Tylenol's got a pretty good first piece by my count, though. This is at the top of Church, and these are generally convenient since you can get a lot of piece 2s at the top of Pumpkin, such as what he has right now, and this rocket is very conveniently placed to just take you right there. Well, this is more like halfway up Pumpkin, but it's still quite a bit faster to take this rocket, I believe. Struggling a little with his movement, though. He does look to be saving a little bit of time on Jazz's Pumpkin Hill though. And Jazz, meanwhile, is in Mission Street, so the next Tails stage, and she's just picked up Tails' first upgrade, the Booster, which allows her to try and do hover jumps, such as like this, and she nails Weight Hop first try. Very nice. Well, I say first try, it's the only try you get at that. And it is quite a short frame window for that hover jump. What is actually happening there is that we use pause buffers to try and get the most out of hover jumps. It's normally used, the hover, to just try and cross large gaps, but if you use the hover right after initiating a jump, then you actually get a little bit more upward momentum than normal. And it's not much, but it is enough to make a difference in a lot of different spots. Struggling a little with her pause buffers to get over the cage halfway through the stage though, so I'm not sure about her zero cycle chances anymore. That's what the runners, if they have managed to get the weight hop at the start of the stage, are aiming for. Ooh, very narrowly avoiding a death there. She is probably, right now, just grateful to be alive. And this is quite a strat for getting onto the weight elevators there.
It's pretty snazzy.
She's... Oh, that was... Okay, this is quite a development. So, bailing out of a death from not knowing which cycle to go for, right into needing to go for Walk of Shame. This is definitely not gonna be what she wants to happen right now. And this is a chance for Tylenol to make some of this time back. The cycles that I was referring to before are right here, the section that she was at before and now is reached again. But in the moment, it can be a little difficult to judge exactly what you are meant to do insofar as making the best plays. What would have been better for her to do is just to wait a little for the platform she was on to rise, and then just hover over to the back end of the cycles.
Yeah.
But as I say, in the moment when you're trying to consider a lot of different things, not necessarily always thinking very clearly, and it can just be very easy in this game to make mistakes that you normally wouldn't make when you're in a pressure situation like this.
Yeah. Something to note though about the hover. I think Draco had mentioned hover jumps before, without really going too much into detail about what those were. But when you double tap the A button, you get a lot of height, to put it like as simple as possible. The hover has a side effect that instead of just slowing down your fall like intended, it also slows down your transition into a fall. So this means that double tapping the A button in quick succession means that you can get a lot more height than you can with just a normal jump.
Yeah, I did mention that it can augment your height if the second A press is quick enough.
Oh, sorry, I must have missed that.
That's cool.
I don't know how, but yeah, you'll be seeing a lot more of that in Hidden Base.
Yeah. Meanwhile, though, we've got more Knuckles, which will be followed by more Tails, which will be followed after that by even more Tails. But Aquatic Mine is a bit of a, I guess, love-hate Knuckles stage for different runners. I personally don't really like this Knuckles stage. It's very small, which is generally in its favor. The pieces tend to be quite close together, such as in this instance. Jazz's first two pieces were quite close together. And there are a lot of free pieces that you can potentially get in this stage. So the game gives you a lot of chances for good RNG, but it also gives you a lot of chances for truly awful RNG as well. Because this stage uses varying water levels. And to start this stage, you'd normally just... Ooh, Tylenol making a routing error there, actually, I think. Yeah, sorry, normally you start the stage by taking the water level down to right at the bottom, which makes the stage a lot easier to travel through. But there are certain pieces that can borderline force you to change the water level back, such as minecart dumping area and dented ceiling. Thankfully, based on the placement, Tylenol's not going to get any of those, but... Okay, so he's going back to Ghost Room as well. Both of these stages ending with the Ghost Room.
Yeah, Tylenol's a bit more rough, though, due to just...
Yeah.
Forgetting where a piece... Well, getting a piece confused, I'd say.
Yeah, that's what it seemed like to me.
I think they were going for 3 skulls arguing before realizing what the piece actually was, which was
maybe, yeah,
the triangle skull.
Both of our runners actually getting the same last piece.
Yeah.
So, as I said, more Tails. And this is not Tails like you've seen it before. This is the only driving stage in the run. It's also one of the longest stages in the run, and it's also typically a spot where we use this as like both a halfway point of the run, And in a race, it's also a nice spot to compare the pace of the runners, since, as I mentioned, it's a very long stage, and you have the in-game timer in the top left to show how far apart our two runners are. As I mentioned before, near the start of the race, I would say Jazz had about a 50-second lead. That's still pretty much what we're looking at right now. So it's really a good demonstration of how in this game you can expect to see some time saves on both ends and some time losses on some ends. I mentioned that Jazz did lose a lot of time in that mission street, but then Tylenol just gave it right back with getting a slightly worse aquatic mine.
Yep.
As far as this stage itself goes, though, there's not really too much to comment on. It is a driving stage. The only real tech that's used in this stage is by maintaining the drift state as much as possible to just snake back and forth. And the reason for this is that you have the normal driving speed and then the boost speed. And if you maintain the drift mode, then you can actually constantly travel at the boost speed cap, providing you don't get slowed down by going uphill or hitting an obstacle. But that speed is given right back when either boosting again or going down a hill.
Yeah.
So you can cut a lot of time off this stage by just maintaining the drift.
Yeah. You know, there's a bit of ring management, but really nothing much to say here.
Yeah, if you want to optimize the stage, then the ring route is fairly important, since that dictates where you can use your boosts. But for the most part, we expect to see the same sort of time ranges on this stage, which is like between 2:14 and 2:20. It's looking like Jazz is getting a 2:20 or maybe a low 2:21, mainly because she did have one mistake near the end of the stage where on the double turn she actually crashed into the wall and spun out, which honestly, depending on where the cars are, it's quite easy for that to happen.
Yeah. Hey, but at least she didn't despawn the stage.
That's right, yeah, it is possible to take one of the most costly deaths in a hero story run at the end of the stage by running into the car when it despawns when it reaches the end of the stage, which forces it to take the entire level with it. That's really not what you want to happen. I've seen it happen before as well, thankfully not in this tournament.
Yeah. It wastes like just over 2 minutes, which no other death can compare.
Yeah.
It's ludicrous.
Jazz, meanwhile, is in Hidden Base, and she is going for what looks like GC skip to me. So she needs to very precisely get through that corner. It did drag her down a little, but not enough to kill the attempt at the skip, so she is through there first try. Very nice. This saves 4 or 5 seconds over using the usual or casual route, I suppose. And then lots of hover jumps used in this stage to cross gaps that are way larger than what the runner is intended to be able to make.
Yeah. And we'll be seeing it used to just kind of, well, hop over some things later.
That's one way to put it. Walls in this game are a bit of a suggestion above a certain height. Tylenol using a different route, going for the strat that I like to use in runs, the axle jump. Trying to use a pause buffered hover jump to get over that fence, which is higher than it looks, and he's actually really struggling. Like, as I mentioned, the fence is higher than it looks thanks to invisible walls, and it is not a trivial hover jump to get over that, so he actually just chose to not go for it in the end. Oh, Jazz taking an unfortunate sand bath right there, though. She still has a commanding lead, but many more of those deaths, and we can see the lead suddenly reversing itself, so I'm certain that she will be berating herself for that and resolving to not let anything like that happen again. This is just a very easy stage to take a death in, as there's so many sand pits, quicksand traps.
Yep.
Yeah, she's going really fast through the end of the stage now.
You.
Yes, exactly. That's what it sounds like. So 154, definitely not too bad. Getting sub 2 minutes in this stage implies that you are going at a fairly brisk pace, I would say, without losing much time anywhere, really.
Yeah.
Tylenol taking a little bit of a roundabout way of getting that out of bounds clip, but he gets it, second try. Very nice. Just needs to not die at the end of the stage. Now this is pretty much the final opportunity to die in hidden base. Jazz, meanwhile, starting what I think you would probably agree with me is probably the most technical and difficult stage in this run.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah,
Not
this
even by a
is
small
a
margin
stage.
either. Yep. Oh, are they going to recover the good way? Looks like they're recovering the good way.
There we go. The geometry bounce to recover. So there was a geometry bounce there that initially went a little wrong with trying to bounce off the corner next to that chow box, but then using another type of corner bounce to get right back up there immediately, which is nice. First door skip is no problem for Jazz. Using the super bounce, this is one of Sonic's main pieces of tech used by exploiting the bounce bracelet, which Jazz just picked up. The bounce bracelet is normally used to just let Sonic get a little higher than normal, but by using it in a particular way, we can let Sonic get a lot higher than normal, and that is that for some reason, if you hit a wall while you're in the bouncing form, the game will just take your current horizontal momentum and just convert it into vertical momentum. So however fast you were just going forward, you're suddenly going that fast upwards. And since you are meant to go pretty fast in this game, it means you can definitely get very high. And the other application of it, which we just saw, is also to invert or skew the direction of gravity. Gravity is very dynamic in this game, and by bouncing when you come off a slope, you can actually temporarily change the direction of gravity, which Jazz used there to do what we call snake skip. And she's going to be using it again right here on the side of this loop to just go straight towards the door ring.
It's very fancy. We'll be seeing that again later in the run as well. Use some totally not broken things, I promise.
Tylenol getting his own snake skip, no problem. Very nice, considering snake skip honestly is a lot more difficult than it looks. It's the thing about this game that a lot of the tricks just look very trivial. It's easy to watch runs of this game and be like, oh yeah, I could do that, that looks really easy. It's not easy, and a lot of the tricks in this game are surprisingly unforgiving.
Tylenol giving us a bit of a spook in the ghost pit.
Yeah, he's getting spooked himself, but he's out. Just a really good example of how the slightest mistake can cause a surprising amount of time loss, because ultimately that entire pit trip was caused by simply, ow, what a death. Yeah, that entire thing was simply caused by not landing on the rail when he should have. Such a small mistake and it can lead to such a big time loss, but he does have to replay the end of the stage again, so he is going to be doing another snake skip, which it looks like he's got. Yep, nice. Jazz, meanwhile, hunting for a respawn piece in Death Chamber. She got a first piece in the blue room, and this is convenient since runners can actually repeatedly kill themselves after getting a first piece that's far away from the beginning location, so that they can respawn at the scripted starting location and hopefully get a piece that's actually near where they are, since the game will always try and give you a piece 2 that's at least moderately far away from where your piece 1 was. Ergo, if you've had a piece 1 that's far away from the starting location, you're more likely to get a piece 2 that's near the starting location. But she closes out with a 49. It's difficult to say exactly how good that Death Chamber was, since once Death Strats come into the mix, the in-game timer is no longer accurate for saying how long the stage was for single segment. And it looked to me like she did take more than one death attempt at getting a respawn piece.
Yeah, it was 2 or 3 there.
Tylenol opting to not take the first piece that the game just gave him there, fly higher than a bird.
Understandable. It's probably the worst first piece in the stage.
He's going with Fire Dance though, which I wouldn't rate it, honestly, as being too much. Oh, he's not going for Fire Dance. Alright, so he just got the upgrade and now he wants something else. Sniper, this is a much better first piece, and it will allow him to attempt the aforementioned Death Strats, since this does count as being in the blue room. The general rule that we use is that if the room has blue walls, then you will probably be able to effectively use Death Strats.
If it's blue, Death Strats for you. If it's green, we can't say that last part on speed gaming.
It's over.
But,
I mean, we can, we just shouldn't. Tylenol, forgetting how many lives that he has, getting a little too far ahead of himself, we think. Yeah, Death Strats are advisable, but the only instance where it is 100% not a good idea to use Death Strats is if you have 0 lives remaining. Thankfully, a game over in this game is not a total game over, and you can restart from your latest stage. So Tylenol is not out of the running, but he definitely has quite a gap to make up now.
Yep.
I think that was
So
just
the,
a complete momentary lapse of concentration on his part. That's all I can chalk that up to.
Indeed. We got a Egg Golem here on Jazz's side. She beat Boom Boo. Boom Boo is actually pretty simple. You just hold an angle and punch every once in a while and you'll get him. But he can be definitely a bit tricky. He's very important to get first try because with Boom Boo you lose about 40 seconds if you miss it.
Yeah. Like I'd mentioned that Route 101 is the biggest single time loss you can take in a run. Boom Boo is up there for the biggest possible time losses across a run though. As well as missing Eternal Engine skip.
Yeah.
But she handled it well, and she's just handled Egg Golem pretty well as well. Getting a 47, I know that Jazz does regularly try for super bounces, so with a 47 she probably like missed a couple, but they are one of the most difficult tricks that you can attempt in a hero story run. So just getting any is honestly quite a difficult task. So definitely kudos to her for making it through the boss in a still fairly timely manner. And she is on to Eternal Engine, Tails' final stage. And just like Mission Street, it is a very heavily cycle-based stage. Jazz is definitely one of the strongest runners, if not maybe the strongest runner at this particular stage as well. Like, she really likes the stage. So
Yeah.
we are expecting great things right now. She's already on real good pace, getting a 22 check there, and I would be very surprised if this doesn't go on to get a first cycle from here. Struggles a little with the switch in that room, but she's already far enough ahead that, yeah, this is well on pace. She could be a couple of seconds behind by now and still possibly make the first cycle.
Yeah.
I would say that going as fast as possible through the whole stage is actually probably not conducive to getting a good first cycle, since if you're going as fast as possible, including when you approach the cycle, it's probably possible to be going so fast that you would need to slow down in order to not be too early. Oof, that beetle that she hit, though, is quite a major mistake, and with a 107 check, she does go for the early Chaos hit, which I like to call the Chaos Spear. She may be able to clutch the back end of the first cycle now.
Looks like it.
I think if she'd maybe gone for the backup shot on the balloon earlier, maybe, but that's unfortunate. That is about as narrowly as it would have been possible to miss the first cycle, which is a shame.
Yeah.
Tylenol himself is also coming up on Egg Golem now, so we'll see if he manages to claw back any time. He's going for bounces. His movement is a little suspect, but it could happen. He's also got these collapsed platforms to work with now, since you can do super bounces off the sides of these fallen platforms, which is significantly easier.
Definitely very wise to attempt that, especially in a race setting.
He's struggling a little here, though. If there's a problem that he's having right now, it's that when you start charging a spin dash, the game does remember your previous speed value, so it's possible to spin dash while you're still moving a little, and he is moving a little bit away from the back of the platforms towards the front of the platforms, which is giving him less space to work with for each super bounce, and even with the maximum space available, you have very, very little room for maneuver to make mistakes with these bounces.
Yeah.
So they are honestly going from very difficult to almost impossible each time.
Such a rough fight. That's very unfortunate. We've got Jazz coming up here.
Meteor with a very, very good first piece. One of the best first pieces of the stage, I'd wager. And okay, so this piece 2 is at the bottom. If she gets a piece 3 at the bottom, this is extraordinarily good RNG. It's in the middle. This is still good. Like, it's not at the top. I would definitely be happy to take this in a run. Middle, bottom, middle is, I would still say, above average.
Indeed. Having nothing at the top is a very pleasant trip to have.
Ideally, she would have really liked to see something like Center of a Square Shadow or Powerless by itself, but that would be a really lucky shot.
Unfortunately, those are impossible to spawn with those first 2 pieces together.
Yeah, and Tylenol, unfortunately, definitely not managing to make the most out of his attempt at Egg Golem. The thing about that boss fight is that it's really easy to start losing large amounts of time if you just get too greedy. If you're trying the bounces and they're just not there, then each of his attack cycles can effectively be called just that. It is essentially a cycle-based fight. And every time he attacks, you are supposed to go around to the back end and get up and land a free hit like that. So it's very possible to just sit and try for too many bounces and essentially pass up free hits, which is unfortunately what happened there. We do have the Rouge boss fight on screen though. Oh, sorry, were you trying to say something?
Oh, yeah, I was saying it's definitely something that a lot of people who are new to the bounces fall prey to. It's just losing a ton of time because they get like too determined and stubborn with going with bounces because, you know, it's kind of hard to know when to give up.
Yeah, exactly.
Looks like Rouge has fallen to the wondrous charm of Knuckles handstands.
Yep, that's right. Not really too much to speak about with the Rouge boss fight, other than her AI is normally meant to be extremely aggressive, but as long as you remain airborne for a large portion of the fight, then it remains unusually passive, and we can just use that to repeatedly drill dive against her, ending the fight within 20 seconds, which is basically the upper limit for getting a quick kill, as at that point the floor of the arena opens and it becomes very difficult to capture. Jazz is coming up on, for what will for her be the biggest skip of the run though, CGSS. She's opting for this box setup, and she is out of bounds first try. This is a lot more difficult than it looks, as the runner needs to get between multiple kill planes without really being able to see where they're going. And this looks good for landing in the goring. First try, very nice.
Nice. It's definitely the most difficult trick in Hero's Story. To give you a perspective on this, I've put probably about 25 hours into this trick, and I still only get it about a fourth or a fifth of the time. Of course, I struggled with it a lot more than a lot of other runners did, but it still stands to show just how difficult that trick is, that it's just, you know, so precise.
Absolutely, yeah. The room for error with that trick is very, very small. Jazz using a very nice Eggman strat here, basically exploiting an area of denial, I'd like to call it, where Eggman can't actually physically enter, which is forcing him to stand in the wrong direction and just sit there as a sitting duck.
Do better next time.
So getting a 16 Eggman 2, I mean, I can see her complaining about it, but really it's not a time to be too unhappy about, because it is sending her right onto the final Sonic stage. There is just this stage, followed by Sonic's final boss, Shadow 2. It's the only thing standing between her and taking the first game of this match. And most of this stage, like Crazy Gadget, is also going to be skipped. Just after the first checkpoint, Jazz is going to use another gravity bounce on this rail. Oh, she's still able to get it, but it's a little awkward to set up now. Okay, she should still be good. And by maintaining this gravity for a specific amount of time, she will actually be able to fall around all of the kill planes in the stage, and then just fly straight towards the goal ring. This is more difficult than it looks. I keep saying it, but it is always true, as the timings for this are a lot stricter than it would appear, since the further you fall around the kill planes, the further you're falling away from the goal ring, and if you go too far around, you actually won't have enough height to make it to the end. So we have a pretty strict set of timings for letting us know when to go.
It's closer. I found him.
Looks like Tylenol finishing up Meteor Herd here with sort of 46, I believe.
It's a 48.
Oh, 48. I'm definitely good at reading, I promise.
Oh, she's taken a preemptive reset though, because she was unfortunately way too far to the left. There is actually one last kill plane that is behind that central pillar, and we really want to be on the right side of that central pillar once the level comes back into view, but Jazz knew that she was just about to go straight into a kill plane, so faster to just take a restart. She does still have a very sizable lead though, so this is no problem. She would basically need to keep missing FR skip and go on to game over in order to not win this race now, and I do not see that happening at all.
Yeah.
Never lose.
Get away from my emerald.
Tylenol with a 15 Rouge, also a respectable fight. And I don't believe that he goes for CGSS, but I'm fully expecting to see a CGS here, just a plain CG skip.
Yeah. It's a lot less intimidating than Joan Juva's strat. Not to say that it's easy by any stretch of the imagination, it's not, but
yeah,
it's definitely
easy,
something
yeah.
difficult. Right.
Oh, she has plenty of height this time on FR skip though, and now she is in the right spot as well, so this is definitely going to land correctly. Yeah, there is absolutely no randomness in that skip at all. It is purely positioning. If you want to go for the fast variant of that skip, it may as well be RNG. And I say that because it is literally nothing more than going through a kill plane and hoping the game doesn't detect you, because the kill plane is thin enough to pass through it within 1 frame. But that is basically random.
Yeah, no, definitely without human control for that one. But hey, thank gosh we have the one that is within human control. All right.
Absolutely. So Jazz does just have this final boss now, Shadow 2. All she needs to do is land 5 hits, and she is already in position with rhythm to get those consistently. She's now on her 4th hit, and okay, she gets a backup, a bounce for the last hit, very nicely done, closing out with a time of 40-32, whilst Tylenol takes a death on Crazy Gadget skip. As you do. So this first game of this match is taken by Jazz, and she does need to take one more win to close out this match. Definitely heavy favorite to close this out successfully though. I am not certain currently though if we're going to wait around for Tylenol to be finished, or if we're just going to ask him to quit out and start the next run though. I mean, he is fairly near the end of the game. Like, he is 2 bosses and 1 stage off the end of the game.
Barely made it.
Yep, there's Jazz's first win on the screen. So Tylenol, in order to progress now, does need to win 2 in a row. This is a best 2 of 3. So Jazz just needs to take 1 more game out of 2, but Tylenol needs to win 2 in a row to advance now. Tylenol himself coming up on Final Rush skip. He's using a different variant here. This is nice. So Jazz was using the bounce variation, and Tylenol is going for the bounce-less variation. The bounce is not necessary for doing this, as you don't need the bounce to maintain the skewed gravity here. So Tylenol is just using a set of visual cues to judge what his falling angle should be. And now hopefully if he's fallen long enough, he won't hit a kill plane. Looks good to me. And he is also now just falling straight towards the end of the stage.
Yeah. Zoom.
It's got a bit less height than what Jazz had, but still looking like more than enough to make it here. He may have to go through the invisible wall, but he looks pretty good from here. Yeah, that's more than enough.
Yes!
So it's looking like by the time Tylenol gets through his own shadow fight that
No problem.
Jazz will probably be in good shape to just start the second race immediately, since it's coming towards the end of her credits.
Yep.
Okay, Tylenol just needs one more. And he's got it. So Tylenol finishes off with a 44-51. So a few minutes difference between our runners, definitely. But, you know, anything can happen in the coming games. And Jazz definitely, while she does have a commanding lead, a good chance, definitely just needs to continue playing her best in order to put this away comfortably.
Awesome job, Tails.
Sonic!
Look outside.
Ooh!
Okay, so as soon as we're done with credits here, we'll be ready for game 2 of a possible 3. I mean, I say it's a possible 3. If I can give a personal opinion right now, I don't think it's a likely 3, though. I'm not sure what you think.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. Unless, you know, maybe Tylenol just needed to get in the groove. We'll see.
Yeah,
like,
possible.
there are a lot of mistakes there that I know he definitely can avoid. So,
Yeah, it's perfectly possible for anyone to have a bad run every once in a while, and he could surprise us with the next run. Could force us to a decider, could go on to just go on a really good spurt. We don't know.
find out tonight at 9.
I mean, it's 2 a.m. where I am, but yeah.
Well, I mean, that's because you're not in EST, where the whole
Yes.
scheduling takes place.
Yes.
To be fair, neither am I, but nobody lives where I live. Nobody cares about Mountain Time. It's like opting to just close the game at the last bit there instead of just finishing the credits.
At the end of the credits, yep. The most efficient time to do it.
I mean, we're speedrunners, what can we say?
Exactly. Yeah, Tylenol's auto splitter, raring to go there.
File select. File select.
He will be ready to go fairly quickly, though, I imagine.
Yeah,
Options.
imagine as such.
Just
File
making his new
select.
file.
File select. Story select.
There we go. Alright, now we just have to wait for the timers to start. There we go. Quite a swift beginning, as it were. So this is game 2, and starting off, you know, exactly in the same fashion as before. If you weren't here for the first race, then we do start this runoff in City Escape with the boarding section, but it is followed immediately after with one of the biggest skips in the game. It's certainly one of the most difficult skips in the game, and for all intents and purposes, it may as well be called random. if you want to call it that, with this RTA context. The runners, they do have as many attempts of it as they want, but I will be very surprised if they give it more than one attempt each.
Yeah.
If it's landed though, then it will give the runner who gets it an immediate 30-second lead, so it is definitely worth trying for at least once.
Yeah. And it's just one of those things that, you know, it's really, really easy to mess up the inputs. Looks like Tylenol probably jumped off the ramp a little bit early or charged their spin dash a little bit too soon or too late.
It looked promising to me though.
There's
And Jazz got it, nice.
Yep, that was perfect. Jumped off just at the end of the ramp, you know, charging that second spin dash just at the right time.
She does have
all
what we
those
call bad
factors
camera though, so I hope she knows how to deal with this.
Yeah, there is a wonderful tutorial, and I'm pretty sure she's watched it.
Yeah, getting through the rails fairly quickly. Gonna lose a couple of seconds just reorienting the camera here, but it's absolutely nothing major. So Jazz is definitely with a healthy lead now. This is a very good chance for her to just close this match out with a commanding lead.
Yep.
Truck section posing a couple of problems, but nothing major. Tylenol himself is coming up on starting his own truck section. So Jazz coming out of City Escape with a 1:37, which is significantly faster than anything you're going to see without that skip.
Yeah.
You can see that Tylenol is still in the middle of truck section and his timer is approaching 150.
It's a little bit rough. This truck section is really difficult because it's very hard to tell where you are in relative to these hills that are popping up that you've got to make sure to charge your next spin dash over. So
Yeah,
really getting
exactly.
a feel for that timing takes a lot of practice. And a lot of
Getting
time.
a 2:01 City Escape though, considering it was a full stage, almost getting a sub 2 like that is not a bad time still. It was still fairly good.
Indeed.
Jazz, meanwhile, already halfway through the first boss, Bigfoot. Definitely one of the more annoying bosses in a run, I would say, since the movement is actually a bit more difficult than it looks, owing to the collision around those boxes being really, really awful.
Mm-hmm.
So Jazz is now in Wild Canyon. Oh, she spotted a free piece, very nice. That is a difficult free piece to see on the fly.
Yeah. I
So
think the best
objective-
method.
Sorry.
Sorry. I think the best method for seeing, or best method, yeah, that's English, for seeing that free piece is to just look directly in front of you at the start of the hole. But,
Yeah,
Just
I'm kind of
definitely-
just looking all around, so I really struggle with that particular one. I basically never see that piece as a free piece, so that was definitely very nice by her.
yeah, it's definitely still not easy, even if you know exactly where to look at the start, as it's very far away, and
this is
that makes it
perfect.
small.
Tylenol's RNG could definitely be better to him right now, though. This is not a particularly good piece 2 to get, as you do have to go right out to the outer edge of the stage, and there's basically nothing in close proximity. Yeah, this is not good. Tylenol, unfortunately, is getting, compared to Jazz, about the worst start to a run you could ask for. Not getting C skip followed by getting really bad RNG like this. This is quite a significant time disadvantage for Tylenol to need to make up from here on out.
Yeah.
Jazz is starting out Prison Lane. This is the start of Tails' stages throughout the run. We just saw Tails have a boss fight in the form of Eggman 1, but it is simple enough to really not even call it much of a boss fight. The stage is a lot more difficult than the boss, honestly. I mean, it's a lot longer, as you may imagine, but the real challenge in this stage is just the general movement. Tails is probably the hardest character to have good fundamental movement with, and this stage definitely throws you enough awkward things to really challenge that movement. Tails really struggles, above all else, with taking corners on the ground very well, and this stage is comprised of nothing but sharp corners, so the runners are instead going to try and jump around as many corners as possible to conserve that momentum, as it is conserved in the air far more than it is on the ground.
On top of that, you're going to be seeing them just trying to open these gates as fast as possible and maintain all their speed through it. Hitting even one of those can waste a few seconds. As
Yeah.
well as, on top of that, there's going to be 2 specific times in which they jump on gates that have lower. You just saw that entirely on the screen. Each one of these saves about 3 seconds or so.
Jazz managing to get off that elevator early while evading all the enemy fire, very nice. Getting some nice early lock-ons here as well to open these doors early. And the second gate hop, which... Oh, she just slipped off the second part of it. Yeah, that is... It's difficult, honestly. We did mention that conserving speed with tails on the ground is difficult due to cornering too sharply. That's even more difficult when the camera itself is panning around, since you really have to let the camera do a lot of the work. And, I mean, you have to try and curve around while the camera itself is curving to maintain a straight line on top of those narrow gates. It's not easy.
Yeah. It's like, I think we're probably going to be seeing a little bit faster of Prism Lane coming out of Tylenol here than we did with Jazz.
Yeah,
That's
he's
definitely gonna
making
help.
back a little bit of that time, so like, he's missing one enemy at the end though, that's a bit unfortunate. Though still, the start of making back a little bit of time, and anything really can happen from here until the end, such as that. I'm not responsible for that. I don't want to hear anything about commentators' curse, it's not real.
Don't worry about it. This actually happened like 10 seconds ago. It's fine.
Exactly. So, this is Metal Harbor. That's a good introduction to the stage. Most of it is above water. These things happen.
Yep. Very, very easy to see some deaths here. It's happened a lot during this tournament, and I don't expect it to stop.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of tight jumps over just a giant, giant kill plane. Bound to make a mistake at some point.
Yeah. There are lots of tiny little incremental skips that can be used in this stage as well, such as the corners that Jazz has been cutting off, including that one big corner, which we call pulley skip. A lot more difficult to gauge than it looks, so definitely well played. And then there's just large gaps that can be spin dash jumped over, such as in that manner. And spin dash jumps can also be used to gain a lot of height, such as on this rocket platform. Very nice.
Smooth. You know, it's definitely going to help Tylenol gain back a little bit of that lost time once more.
That was a very nice rocket skip from Tylenol, actually.
That made me feel good on the inside.
I wasn't sure about him getting onto the sloped surface with as much speed as that, but it actually worked out really well. A 127 from Jazz, though, not too bad. Obviously, there was the death at the start of the stage on the first attempt. Can't really be helped, though. As I said, these things just happen from time to time. And they're 128 from Tylenol.
That was really scary at the end there with the homing attack kind of being a little bit wobbly, but making it out just barely.
The camera on that last loop really tries to not help, it must be said.
That blue hedgehog again of all places.
I found you, faker.
Faker? I think you're the fake hedgehog around here.
So we have everyone's favourite cutscene here, followed by possibly everyone's favourite boss fight. I don't know. It's one of my favourite boss fights.
I like it when it's nice. I don't like it when it's mean.
I mean, it's always nice if you do it right, but doing it right is definitely easier said than done.
So you're not just a hedgehog.
Such as in this case. And the light dash is a bit of a handicap in this fight as well, man. There are certain situations like that where the light dash can cause you to lose time. It can also just straight up force a death in the wrong situations.
Yep, like this fight. I've seen it happen before to plenty of runners, and it's definitely not a nice thing to say. Coming up to Green Forest, there's a lot of places where the runners are going to try to avoid flying sky high. There's a lot of geometry here that just if you have too much speed while going over it, or not try to do a spin dash, it'll just kind of launch you into the sky.
Yep.
It's not nice.
I don't think any of us really either fully understand when it's going to happen or has full control over stopping it happening, because sometimes it just seems to happen of its own accord.
Yeah.
Even without much speed.
Well, she grabbed the mushroom, she didn't cuddle it. Shady. Mushroom there.
Everyone likes mushrooms.
Yes.
It's guaranteed to bless the run. Tylenol struggling a little with his own tunnel there, not due to the mushroom, but just due to the other assorted geometry in the room. As Piner said, all of the... Ew, wow. Jazz bailed out of that first skip in actually quite a nice manner. It will be really easy to just commit to that first skip a little too much and put yourself in an unrecoverable position, but she did manage to get out of it halfway without taking a death.
How did... Shout outs to Tylenol being able to deal with that camera there.
I mean, Tylenol is not bad. He is not bad capitalized with a TM symbol. Jazz does have a tree run though. Looks like she is not going for task run. I assume she's just going to moonshot off this. That's a moonshot. Getting past the invisible wall, and nicely done. Very nice. Along with CGSS, that is definitely one of the most advanced tricks you can do in this game.
Yeah, Draco and I are yet to have our match. That'll be probably sometime next week.
Yes!
It will be fun.
I'm gonna get bodied. Oh, unfortunately, Tylenol got bodied there.
Yeah, the skewed gravity in this game has a tendency to sometimes not really play nice, and there are certain ways to skew the direction of your gravity while not really being able to reset it.
Yeah.
The checkpoint was pretty much right where he was though, so if a death needed to be taken, that's one of the best places in the run to take a death.
Indeed.
So it could be a lot worse. And Tylenol is definitely still within reaching distance of where Jazz is right now. Jazz is starting Pumpkin Hill, getting a first piece at the top of Church Mountain. I did mention in the last run that this can potentially be really good if you get a second piece at the top of Pumpkin Mountain, as there's this rocket that takes you right over there.
Yeah, looks like it.
Yep.
Let's see if she grabs a second hint here.
I think she definitely will. Yeah, Ghost Train Mountain. With that specific piece, and with a few pieces in the stage, it's worth getting more than one hint, because the hint text can actually refer to more than one location.
Wow, very interesting piece combo there.
Tylenol, meanwhile, got Turns But Doesn't Turn as his first piece. He's also gotten Sad-Eye Pumpkin for his second piece, the aforementioned ambiguous piece, so he's not even going for a second hint, he's just going straight for Pumpkin Mountain, which I think, based on where his first piece was, is the correct play. He's going from Sad-Eyed Pumpkin to Sad-Eyed Pumpkin, so this one is always going to be at the spot that he's currently flying towards.
Yep.
He's coming out with a 41. That's a pretty nice time. I don't think he'll be unhappy with that.
Yep, definitely.
Jazz starting Mission Street, so about 20 seconds into the stage, she is going to be getting the booster, Tails' first upgrade, and this is going to allow the runners to start using the hover jumps. Normally the hover is just used to cross wide gaps, but if you initiate the hover soon enough, right after jumping, it can actually be used to increase your height a little bit as well. It's not like a massive difference, but it is enough to make the difference between whether you can make jumps such as the one that Jazz just got on first attempt. That weight hop is a lot more difficult than it looks. It is possible to go for that without pause buffering, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend it, considering it is, I believe, a 5-frame window to successfully get on top of that weight. Like, your two A presses need to be within 5 frames of each other. Tylenol, unfortunately, doesn't get the hover input after unpausing, so he is having to wait for the weight, nice, to come down. Jazz, meanwhile, just right on her way to the end of the stage, to where the cycles are going to be waiting at the end of the stage. This is a cycle-based stage, and really the objective when going quickly through the start of the stage is to try and make it to the end of this section right here, and to try and be able to get this cycle that's coming down right now. Looks like she's made it. Nice. That is a 0 cycle.
Yep. The reason why it's called 0 cycle, just a bit of trivia, is that we used to think that there was first cycle, right? And that was the fastest. Turns out, you can actually get up there, get to the cycle a lot faster than we thought we could. I do believe it was because we found weight hop. Am I correct on that one?
It was because the task demonstrated the weight hop, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Oh!
Oh wow, that is a thing that sometimes happens, and this has actually almost equalized the time difference. That is quite a death.
That is crazy.
Yeah, ground collision is a thing, and then those fences are sometimes not a thing, and if those two events coincide in the wrong way, then you're taking deaths there. And the runner is not... This is one of those things that I mentioned where the runner just doesn't always seem to be in full control of that sort of thing, which can be a real shame. Tylenol just about getting back in bounds with that extended hover jump. I thought for a minute that he didn't have enough height, but he did manage to just about get back in. So, definitely a bittersweet ending to Mission Street for Jazz. She did manage to get first cycle, but then that is all I can really say about that.
Alright.
Do better next time.
After that, zero cycle, just taking that death. Blah.
Tylenol, it's looking like he got, by my count, that looks like 1.5 cycle to get a 226 like that.
Yeah.
So Jazz is entering Aquatic Mine. This is a stage where the runner can see potentially some free pieces in the intro cutscene. I thought I saw one. Was I wrong?
I don't think so.
For some reason I thought I saw 3 fans. I may be wrong. Oh, wait, no, I am good at games. Okay.
Look, compression makes things hard, okay?
And I think I just saw wooden window on a roof on Tylenol's side. Do both of our runners have 3 pieces to start with? Oh, no, okay, this time I am wrong. Look, I can't be right all the time.
It's closer.
None of us can, don't worry.
This is not a particularly good piece 2 for Tylenol, though. Okay. If he is going to go on to win this race, the game is really making him work for it.
Yeah, this is perfect.
Really rough. Especially, you know, just with that early, you know, Jazz getting C-skip and all that early time loss and just all of this RNG here not being friendly to him is really rough.
Yeah, absolutely. But it is what it is. And just like the last race, we are going to be able to use Route 101 as a bit of a benchmarking stage, where we're going to be able to look at the relative time difference between our runners. Jazz once again in the lead at the halfway point of the run. And it looks like this time it's going to be by about 35 seconds. Yeah, like 34, 35 seconds. That's about right. So, a bit of a lesser lead than last race, but then again, by the end of that race, the gap was quite a bit wider than that. So, you know, anything can happen.
Definitely, really not much to talk about.
Yeah. If this were a GDQ run, this would be the point where I'm asking for donations to be read. Once you know what's going on in Route 101, being that you just want to be drifting as much as possible to try and maintain the higher boost speed cap, then there's really not too much that is actually going on in this stage. And being that it is one of the longest stages in the game, it's something of a breather that the runners can take. Obviously, you don't want to get complacent, as it is possible to take deaths in this stage.
Yeah.
And being that this is one of the longest stages in the game, the deaths you can take are correspondingly larger as well. Since there are no checkpoints in this stage. If you die, you start the entire stage over again. It's... In some universe, it may be possible that Jazz could have died on that one corner just there. I'm not sure. But my heart did stop for a very brief moment there. Because I know all too well just how costly a death is there, so... I'm happy that the stage ended normally.
Quite.
Tylenol is not too far behind, though. though we are going to have to see how the runners do in the next 3 stages especially. We've got the trifecta of desert stages coming up. Hidden Base for Tails, Pyramid Cave for Sonic, and Death Chamber for Knuckles. And for the respective characters, these are pretty much all the most technical and difficult stages for them.
Yep.
Hidden Base just has a lot of ways to die, mainly owing to failed hover jumps or just not getting enough distance to make it over sand pits. Missing jump inputs entirely is something that can happen.
Yeah. Just a lot of... Oh, pole jump!
Nice! Very nice from Jazz. This is another one of those, honestly, one of the most difficult strats in the game you can really go for. And she's making it in very nice time to be able to get that rising and falling platform cycle when it's at the bottom, which is really the only way to even survive going for that. Very nice. Tylenol, meanwhile, is probably going to go for a much slower route. It's more consistent and safe, but it is quite a bit slower. And last race he was struggling with this jump here absolutely. He gets it first try this time though. Very nice.
Looks like that's going to be about a 4-second time loss or so to the strat that Jazz had pulled off there.
Something like that, yeah. Jazz now just needs to make her way through the rest of the stage. Very nicely getting through that door after the spring without getting stopped, as she didn't even stop to jump again, just went straight for it. With the 114 check, that's not bad at all. With pole jump, she maybe might prefer to be a bit faster, but I would definitely take a 114 check in the run.
If I want to take a guess, she's going to be disappointed that this isn't a 142.
Maybe, but she did also just narrowly evade a death. Again, very good presence of mind and paying attention to what's happening to make sure to not take any unfortunate deaths. And that is, at the end of the day, the most important thing. You need to finish the stages in one piece.
Yeah.
Coming out with, yeah, a 153. I can already see in the chat it's not a hidden base that she's particularly happy with, but I know that inside she'll just be thinking like, well, at least I didn't die, because, as I said, very easy to happen in hidden base, and I could see that it is something that almost did happen.
Yeah. It's happened to a lot of runners. I mean, even it happened to Jazz earlier.
Yep,
So.
indeed. She is onto Pyramid Cave, though, in the meantime. As I mentioned, if Hidden Base is Tails' most difficult stage, then this is Sonic's most difficult stage, possibly the most difficult stage in the whole run. Yeah. Just every part of this stage is a technical trick in some form or another, such as right there. Ooh,
taking a restart instead of just the death after... Maybe she didn't grab the first checkpoint. I know that can happen sometimes where
it's possible,
it just doesn't detect you.
It's possible for the light dash to take you through the checkpoint without triggering it.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and check that.
Getting it second try though, definitely. I definitely saw the checkpoint get triggered there though. So that's unfortunate. It really goes to show though, what I said. Runners don't really see that particular part of the stage as a particularly high risk part of the stage, and it just goes to show you that even a lower risk area of the stage, you can die very easily. She is making it through in very nice pace right now. Again, I'm not responsible for that, though she does get back on the rail with a super bounce. That is actually a lot more difficult to do than it looks.
Yep.
Getting the door skip with what was barely even a setup, that was very quickly done.
Alright, I did look back at it, and it does seem like the checkpoint did detect her. I guess it may have just been a mistake.
Huh, interesting. Either way though, we are in the situation that we are now. Tylenol is starting to gain on Jazz though, so hopefully she makes this snake skip first try. Camera looks a little dodgy, but she's still safe. That's fine.
Definitely not a trivial trick by any means.
No, not at all. And she just has a couple of more not trivial tricks to go to close out the stage. She needs to go for one super bounce here, nails it, and now she just needs to go for a last super gravity bounce off a narrow platform here. Very nicely done. Closing out with a 140. Tylenol, if the end of his Pyramid Cave is really clean, he could be getting a similar-ish time. It's going to be a couple of seconds slower, but he could still be right on her heels. He's not even going for the gravity bounce, he's just going straight over to the other side. Given the circumstances, I can totally understand why he'd want to do that. You can't really afford to have wobbly movement on that section of the stage because it's really easy to fall off, and the latest checkpoint is right back before where Snake Skip was.
Hey, Fire Dance first piece. Are we going to be seeing some heart? Come on, give us heart.
Possibly. Jazz is choosing to clip for this piece. Oh, wow.
Oof, rough camera.
Yeah, and Tylenol getting a really booty first piece, which he is trying to use booty clip to get to. I personally would not run with this first piece.
Yeah, I don't think many runners really would. Ah, no heart.
He managed to clip back through to get to it though. Is he going to take a death here? Yeah, he's trying to die here. Not altogether a bad decision. He doesn't get a respawn piece, but we don't really expect to see one of those after dying from the green room.
Sniper second piece. We don't see that often in runs just because we tend to restart on a lot of pieces that can possibly give us this.
Yeah, that's true. He does need the hourglass to be able to get through those doors though, so there we go. Jazz, meanwhile, is just on the way to her final piece. She was in the blue room and now she needs to just get towards the core.
Very, very rough RNG on both sides, really, so far.
Yeah, I would not rate these death chambers particularly highly, and it's not necessarily the fault of the runners. These just aren't good pieces overall.
Looks
She's
like...
gonna go for another clip to get to two Eggmans facing each other.
Yep. Who needs boundaries when you can just not?
Absolutely. He
Okay.
just about got back in bounds. That was very close.
Who's there?
Just like very similar times ending off on both sides here. Although I do believe Tylenol had 2 deaths and Jazz with a solid 0.
Yeah. So both runners are going to be on King Boom Boo at the same time, it looks like. Jazz just wants to wait for a couple of fireballs to be thrown before going for the hourglass around the back of him, so as to light up the room and make it so that King Boom Boo can actually be attacked. And then with some very precise movement, it's actually possible to beat this boss in 1 cycle. Like normally you'd punch him and then wait for him to run away, and beat him over a course of 4 cycles. If your movement's slick enough though, you can just keep right up with him and beat him in 1 cycle.
Yep. Very costly though if you do manage to miss that. It's pretty unfortunate. Although I actually, you know, right now I would like to mention just how well Tylenol has been able to keep up with Jazz here. After the CE skip at the start, Tylenol seems to only be about, oh, well, I opened my mouth.
That's unfortunately, that is not going to be good enough for a first cycle. Yeah, restarting here is probably the correct thing to do.
The weak point is the head.
Well, never mind that, but,
It's still not a given. We could still see an unexpected change from here to the end of the game. After Egg Golem, which is Jazz's current boss, we do only have the space stages left, and they are definitely not simple. I would expect Jazz to have a pretty easy time with Eternal Engine, but that is definitely not the same story for the other stages, which are either random or including technical skips.
Yeah, this Egg Golem is brutal.
Yeah,
Sum it up
Jazz
in one
definitely
word.
struggling with super bounces. She's got one now though, but she's also triggered a spinning cycle, unfortunately. The problem with this attack is that it is uninterruptible. And like, I mean that, you can even kill this boss, and as long as that animation is playing, it will continue to play and the boss won't actually die until it's finished. So this is definitely an opportunity for Tylenol to make up some time.
Yeah. Jeez. Would not want to be Jazz right about now.
Tylenol's going for sideways super bounces, but his angle is just not quite right. There he goes with the second hit.
Another
Wow,
ballerina.
this is... Man, yeah, I kind of feel bad for her right now, honestly. This is a bit of a nightmare scenario.
Jesus Christ.
And
Just like
Tylenol managing to get the quick last hit off the arm as well. So just like that, as I mentioned, anything can happen. And just like that, almost all of that time difference has suddenly been leveled going into the final section of the game. So there are 4 more stages to go and a couple of boss fights strewn throughout. I definitely would trust Jazz to be able to maintain the lead that remains, or maybe even widen it in this stage, Eternal Engine. This is another cycle-based stage, and first cycle in this stage is definitely demanding to meet, but Jazz is definitely one of the strongest players at this stage, while Tylenol I would definitely not rate as highly. So if there's a chance for Jazz to make another 10 or so seconds back, it's definitely here.
Yeah, there is a reason we used to call this stage Jazz's waifu.
Exactly.
Oh!
Wow! So this is something.
Yeah, that's one way to put it. Well, Tylenol's in the lead. He did say anything could happen, and once more, that has proven true.
Yes, races are no joke in this game, sure.
Yeah.
It's
Certainly.
It's so easy to get complacent with, both as a player and as a viewer, just thinking that you know that someone is in the lead and that it's a done deal. In this game, it's never a done deal. Until the last hit is dealt to Shadow 2, it is not a done deal.
Yeah. It's definitely rough. Looks like going for weight hop. Oh.
Just narrowly misses it. That is a very, very difficult jump to go for that Jazz just attempted. Normally you have to hit the switch that she just got under the drum to stop that weight from coming down. You can jump off the top of the drum, off the top of the weight, but it's a very short frame window and the collision can be a little uncooperative.
Looks like Tylenol finally made it out of bounds. Had a little bit of trouble getting that clip. Yep, that's in English. Looks like Jazz is gonna get it first try, instant clip.
Yep. And
Legendary.
she's using a slightly modified flight path to try and just optimize her flight towards the goal ring a little bit. Since the camera is constantly panning around slightly as you fly towards the goal ring, so she is using a bit of a staggered, curved flight path herself, which will actually compensate for that and get her to the goal ring a little bit sooner.
Yeah. It's one of those small optimization saves, what, half a second or so. Not very much, but, you know, all that stuff really does add up.
I did it!
So, assuming that all else is equal, and I don't really expect that it will be because of stuff like CG strat differences, but assuming all else is equal, Meteor Herd could really swing this one way or another. Tylenol does have a very good start. This is the last Knuckles stage, so the last batch of RNG, and it's a very good start for Tylenol. He has had really bad RNG so far in this race, so this could be a turnaround where he finally gets a good RNG stage. This is not a particularly good second piece, but we'll see.
It's possible to get center of a square shadow with this one. That's what I am assuming Tylenol would be hoping for.
I do not agree with this movement route that I'm seeing right now, though. He should definitely be going for a piece before going up. But again, we'll see where this goes.
Jump from star.
Okay, that's fine.
It's closer.
Jazz, meanwhile, is getting her second piece, so... Okay, where is she going? Moving around the Ox Huge storage area in the middle of the stage.
Looks like middle, bottom, middle, judging by the timer.
Something like that, yeah. She is going to be saving a little bit of time on Tylenol, so definitely not over. She's definitely gaining on Tylenol. And over the next couple of splits, I would expect her to save a bit of time over Tylenol. I know that her Rouge is generally a bit more solid, and in Crazy Gadget, again, assuming all else is equal, like assuming that our runners get first try skips, Jazz's strats are more advanced than Tylenol's.
Mm-hmm.
But it's looking like this race is really going to come down to the wire.
Yeah.
Long time no see. treasure hunter. Did you
One
find
handstand,
my
two handstand. I can't count that many. There's a lot.
There's too many. I believe it is incorrect to use multiple handstands in this fight. It increases the risk at no tangible gain.
Yeah, but it's easier.
Nah, it's not. It's literally not easy.
I mean, timing can be hard.
I never lose.
Get away from
It
my
is
emerald.
foolish. But yeah, so we have Crazy Gadget, and as I mentioned, can definitely be a make or break stage. This stage is host to one of the biggest skips in the game, and there are multiple ways to do it with varying degrees of difficulty. Tylenol is going to be going for what we call CG skip, just a regular old skip. It's going to skip most of the stage, and Jazz is no doubt going to be going for Crazy Gadget skip, a skip which skips the skip, saves even more time, but it is also correspondingly more difficult. Yep, Tylenol going to the left, indicating that he is going for CG skip. Looks like he's got his spin dash jump first try.
Nice. Looks like, oh, this could be a place for Jazz to make a bit of time, assuming that she gets out of bounds first try.
He is entering Acid Room with 0 rings though, so he does need to play well here to not die. Jazz, meanwhile, is lined up for her first attempt, and she hits the kill plane. I mean, it's fine. She has the checkpoint right before the clip out room,
Ooh,
but she is on her last life. So
playing it smart. Sorry.
this is make or break. She is on her last life. She needs to get this clip out now. And that's a game over.
Tauno, by the way, played it really smart there. Grabbed the checkpoint.
Yes, that's right. He did that I've seen him do that before, I believe.
Yeah, it's a very nice play to make. It really does guarantee that if something goes wrong, you're really minimalizing your chances of just completely boning yourself.
Yeah, like, it actually works as well because the game remembers your gravity direction based on what it was when you hit the checkpoint. So, like, when you have sideways gravity like that and you hit the checkpoint, if you die, the game will still start you with sideways gravity. So it's actually something that works. Jazz
misses the checkpoint.
Yeah. Alright, come on. Believe. Believe in her. She is good at this skip. She honestly is good at the skip.
Hey!
There it is. There's an out of bounds. It's not over yet. She does still need to land in the goal ring, but hopefully she should be good now. Tylenol, meanwhile, is finishing up his Eggman 2. Jazz just a little high. Oh, she was too high. Oh my word. Yeah, this is all kind of just going to pieces right now.
Yeah.
It is looking like we are, at this rate, going to be going to a decider race. This is something.
Yeah. Who knows? I would imagine right now Jazz is very tilted. Like, I'm not even gonna lie. Like, that's probably affecting her play. It's just...
I trust that, yeah. I don't disagree with you.
And like I had said in the beginning, that's definitely one thing that Tylenol has over Jazz, is just this incredible mental game.
Yeah, definitely. Of the two of them, I would expect that Tylenol is probably more capable of keeping his cool. Well, maybe not purely, but definitely in part to his history as we mentioned, a Smash player. He is no stranger to a competitive scene like this where you need to play under pressure.
Right. And also keeping your cool when something goes wrong is a huge thing that he's very accustomed to as well.
At this point, definitely the best thing that Jazz can do is just put this game away as a lost cause and just clear ahead for the next one. That is the best thing that can be done by this point. Like, at this point, it's very unlikely that she's going to be able to win this race, but what she can do is just mentally restart and just put her all into the next race. Neither player is out right now, and she still has a very solid chance of winning. Like, of the two, I would say that Jazz is the stronger runner when all things are considered. So, being that this is now down to one race left, I still rate her as the favorite to win a single race.
That is, you know, like, I can definitely speak and say that resetting the mental game, or the mental state, everything back to the start is really not so easy, so we might see that affect her in the next game, but
yeah,
assuming she's able to pull that off and really just kind of calm down and everything just kind of, you know, bring
Although
it down there.
I will stand by what I've been saying this whole time. The run is not over until it's over. So should Tylenol somehow manage to spaghetti Shadow hard enough, it's possible that Jazz could still win. It's not likely, but it is possible. He does still have 3 hits to go, and I've seen runners lose better runs than this at a closer margin than this. But he does close it out. 40-34.
That's a rather good run for them. Really?
Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, this is 1-1 to both players. Jazz took the first race, Tylenol has taken the second race. We are going to a decider race in just a few minutes.
Yeah, that's barely a minute off of their PB. That's solid. You know, a minute and some change there.
I really do just hope that, as I mentioned before, I do hope that Jazz is able to recoup from this and not let this loss get to her too much going into the closing game, because if nothing else, I would expect that at the start of this race, when she hit CE skip, that it was already kind of a done deal in her mind. And going on to not be able to win this race after getting CE skip, that's definitely going to be a confidence blow.
Yeah. Definitely. And all these struggles she's having here. Yeah, I mean, we might be seeing an upset.
It's possible, yeah. At the very least, regardless of how both of our runners are feeling right now, this certainly is at least good for the viewers, I'll say. Jazz going now for the bounceless final rush. I think it's possible that, I know she normally goes for the bounce variant, so possible that she accidentally, a little too low unfortunately, but it is possible that she accidentally had a rail switch off that rail, which does prevent you from being able to use the bounce. But it's well worth knowing how to do the bounceless variant for that very reason. Only thing wrong there was that she was just a little too low with a falling angle, but for the most part it was just looking solid. Or it's possible that this could just be a deliberate play, because this is another bounceless.
Yeah.
Gravity reset. Yeah, this is a thing that can happen. When maintaining skewed gravity like this, it's very important that the runners don't angle up too far, otherwise gravity will just immediately reset to its normal value.
Jeez Louise.
Yeah, there's just not really too much I can say about what's happening here other than this is just really an unfortunate development.
Oh, she could have saved that too. I think she's really lost her head on this one.
I think so, yeah. This is why I say I just really hope, if nothing else, that she's able to just not let this affect her too much in the upcoming race.
Yeah.
Like, every race is one that stands on its own merits. A point is a point, but nonetheless it is difficult to not let past mistakes affect you in future play.
Right.
Alright, as long as she just slides past that last kill plane, which she definitely has at this point, this is fine for landing in the goal ring for Final Rush. Yep.
Yes! Huh. No problem. Before this is over, I'll show you the true power of chaos control! Before this is over, I'll show you the true power of chaos control!
Shadow special attack. Use the somersault to avoid the chaos spear.
So Jazz is closing out with a 46-44.
Definitely a rough development for her.
Yeah, I definitely, well, I mean, I know she's definitely capable of faster times, but yeah, sometimes these things just happen. And yeah, I can see that she's just asking for a short break. I do not blame her at all. A good time to maybe just go for a bit of a walk, maybe get a drink,
Yeah,
just do something to unwind for a bit.
Yeah, refill your water, maybe grab some popcorn. We're going to be having a tiebreaker. Finish us off. Who knows? Anybody could be the winner.
Select a story. Select a scene.
So rather than people getting through the kill plane for Final Rush Skip, it's a little bit. It's easy to get a little bit confused with the terms here because there is a faster variant of Final Rush Skip in which the runners literally do just pierce through a kill plane, and that is very random. I mean, it's not RNG, but it is precise and uncontrollable enough that it may as well be considered random. But for the skip that we saw in that particular race, that both runners did, it's not going through a kill plane, but it's rather just going around all the kill planes. I mean, kill planes, as far as the game is concerned, are basically a physical entity, and they have set locations. And so by exploiting skewed gravity, the runners are just able to fall around all of the kill planes that exist. Since the developers aren't just going to program kill planes out in the middle of nowhere where they don't need to be. So they simply made them in such a way that they cover a wide enough area that the runners, or the players rather, are normally going to be able to get to. But by exploiting mechanics that the developers didn't intend, we're simply able to get way further out and simply go around all of them. And that's simply what you see in Final Rush Skip. We have a very strict set of timings, so that we're able to get around all the kill planes while still having enough height to be able to make it to where the goal ring is.
File select. Story select.
So it looks like very shortly we will be kicking off with this deciding race in this match.
Yep.
I am not necessarily surprised that this is going to a decider, but I certainly felt that coming out of the first race that Jazz was the favourite to take a 2-0 victory.
Yeah.
Alright, hopefully we will be starting very shortly.
Mhm.
May as well try and take this opportunity to try and figure out the bot commands. Is it runners? Yeah, it is. Is it?
It's
Dude, I'm good at this.
Croatia, you done it.
Winner of this has to race Seraphim. This is a friendly competition. We're all friends here. Nobody gets hurt.
Fisticuffs at GDQ with Seraphim.
I mean, he's tall. I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, but he wouldn't hurt a fly.
I don't know. I've never seen him angry. Well, I have, but not properly angry.
Fair enough.
When he gets proper mad. Okay, so I believe both of our runners are back and ready, and we should be starting very shortly now. I said that before, this time I mean it. I mean, I see activity.
We took a short break due to just request of Jazz after what was a very, 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 very frustrating end run.
Yeah, that's certainly an appropriate way to describe it, I think. Just frustration upon frustration. And we're off. This is it. This is it for the night. This is the last race that we have. We've had 2 races already, 1 apiece going to each player. Now this is just the last one to decide who takes it all.
Oh, did I see a load advantage on Tylenol's side?
I mean, it is possible. He didn't close the game, so he should have some stuff in just cached data.
Yeah, oh, yeah, he's going to be saving probably 0.5 seconds on every boss then.
But he will be losing some of that time on Route 101 also, from not getting the little puff of boost, as we call it.
Yeah, but that's 0.8 seconds, and there are like 6, 7 bosses. I don't know.
And Tylenol gets Scene Skin. Wow.
We can't even talk about this trick. It's fast.
It's very fast. It is 30 seconds fast. Jazz, meanwhile, is going without. So Jazz needs to play through the rest of City Escape now. As I mentioned, it's about in the region of 30 seconds, although Tylenol is not getting all of the mileage of that time save, as he did manage to get out of City Skip with what we call bad camera. The speed that you have exiting that skip really dictates what your camera is going to behave like afterwards. And yeah, he managed to get what we call a bad camera from being too fast, and that has forced him to then take the remainder of the stage quite a bit more slowly.
Yeah, looks like he didn't quite know how to deal with the rails there. There are definitely ways that you can handle that with enough experience.
Having a bit of a rough truck section as well, it's got to be said. So he's got the skip, but the rest of the stage is posing him quite a few problems right now. Like 145, although it is faster than what you would get without the skip, I think he will be pretty unhappy with a finishing time like that whilst simultaneously getting the skip.
Yeah, there's a lot of factors that go into that trick. The reason you'll see a lot of people getting bad cams, it actually, when you go for methods that do have more speed, it does, you know, just help sway those odds in your favor.
Yeah, that's right. It is easier to trigger the skip with more speed, but then you're just more likely to get bad camera as well.
Yeah. Although there are ways to deal with it.
Jazz, meanwhile, getting out of City Escape with a 219, so it looks like there's about a 45-second difference between our runners right now. Jazz is likely...
Ooh!
Well, okay, I maybe spoke a little too soon. I was going to say that Jazz was probably going to be on Bigfoot whilst Tylenol got out of it and into Wild Canyon. But now both runners are going to be on the same boss at the same time.
That's really going to even things out a bit.
Yeah, part of the problem of trying to beat this boss quickly is that you do need to go for the boss without any rings if you want to beat it quickly. And no rings in this game, as I'm sure people who played any Sonic game know, means you die in one hit.
Oh, speaking of dying,
Jazz taking her own death. Wow. So a death apiece on Bigfoot. That's not something that I expect to see.
Yeah.
Very, very controversial. Very unusual. I mean, I don't know about you. I saw a free piece with Tylenol going up there.
I see a free piece right there.
At least, well...
Are you talking about...
Maybe I didn't.
About,
I thought I saw
piece?
it.
Like on a railway or something? No?
Okay, I'm lying. I did not see a free piece. Video compression is good. I thought I saw by a tall pillar, but
well, I mean, that wouldn't
not.
be possible considering he got in front of a mountain with red and green
That's
stripes.
what I was thinking as soon as he got it, yeah.
Yeah. Let's see Jazz. Let's see who can spot the free pieces better here. Is that... No? Okay, video compression, good. Wait, no, I did see it! I wasn't
okay.
insane.
Alright then. Yeah, that's the thing. So Jazz definitely has a chance to claw back some of this time difference. Since Tylenol didn't get a particularly good Wild Canyon, and Jazz doesn't have too far to go for this last piece of hers. Nice.
That's sexy.
That's like a solid 11-second time save by my count.
I didn't look at Tylenol's time too hard to remember it, so I'm just gonna have to trust you on that one.
It was something like that.
Bro. Pew pew.
But yeah, we certainly have, I mean, the rest of the run to go before any result is decided. So although Tylenol has an early lead, he is going to have to put a lot of work in to maintain that lead.
Pew pew on Eggman. It's dead.
Yeah.
Simple as boss.
So we've seen Prison Lane a couple of times tonight already. This is going to be the final time, but in case you've just joined us and you haven't seen this yet, Tails' movement in this game is very difficult to get a good grasp of the fundamentals of and use effectively. Sonic and Knuckles, they're both relatively simple in terms of just how to move with them, and they have ways of forcing quick acceleration. Tails doesn't really have any way to quickly accelerate, and it's very easy to quickly lose that speed with Tails by cornering on the ground too sharply. So since this stage is comprised of a lot of corners, what the runners are going to do instead is just jump around a lot of these corners, since that will help them conserve their speed a lot more effectively in the air than on the ground.
Yep. And you'll be seeing a little bit of something unique to this stage coming up on Jazz's side here, called a gate hop. You'll be hopping on a gate. You know, makes sense when you think about it with that name. Yeah, there's 2 of those in this stage. Each one takes about 3 seconds. Plus, let's just skip a little bit of an elevator.
Tylenol missed his first one. still has the one at the end of the stage, and runners don't really seem to universally agree on whether the first or the second one is easier, so he could feel like he's got an easier one coming up, or he might not. I'm really not sure.
I think it really just depends on who you ask. Personally, I find the second one easier.
Yeah, I find the first one easier. That's exactly what I mean. I mean, the second one you go for basically without stopping, as we kind of saw there.
Yeah,
And
but you just keep hopping.
I find that more difficult to judge.
Fair enough. I think... I don't know, do you do 2 hops? Or... Because I do 3.
I just do a jump every time I need to jump, so... Across the entire skip, I jump 3 times, once to go on the gate, once to get on the midway point, and then another time to clear it completely.
Okay, I actually do 4 hops, I miscounted. 1 to deal with the camera as well.
Ah, I see.
I did it!
Now I got Metal Harbor. Danger stage.
Absolutely.
We've seen at least, I think I saw 1 death
That was
so
easy.
far. Which is, you know,
I think so.
a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely not too surprising considering what this stage is. And it's very possible to see another one coming up.
Tylenol having a fairly healthy start though, and Jazz really just needs to keep up here. This stage is not a freebie by any stretch of the imagination. You can see that this stage is almost entirely above water, and that can just be seen as one huge kill plane.
Yep. Oof, a little bit of a miss on that. Where you're seeing Tylenol do there is known as a slope jump. In this case, building a lot of speed right on that slope there and then jumping. Because the game cares a lot about your angle and everything. Oof! A death by Jazz and a spin dash charge sound effect to go with it because this game makes a lot of sense. It's pretty rough.
Yeah, that pulley skip is just a lot more difficult than it looks. She's choosing to not give it a second attempt, just going for the more consistent method.
Certainly don't blame her. Gosh, I hope she doesn't die. Oh gosh!
That was close. This is a game where it's easy to constantly be on a razor's edge.
Yeah. Especially after not getting that checkpoint, that would have been catastrophic. That nice cutscene on the Tylenol side here. Okay.
Yes!
Barely made it.
Ooh, smooth.
Yeah,
Pretty
that was
nice
Not
time.
bad. Getting 11 on Shadow.
Yeah.
The homing attack straps there are interesting.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen that movement pattern that you would do there. Shadow 1 reacts heavily to just where you are, and usually it's just better to stay behind him. And that was a pretty interesting way of achieving it.
I think you're the fake hedgehog around here.
And what?
You're comparing yourself
Can't argue
to
with
me?
results after all.
Huh. You're not even good enough to be
I'll
my
make you
fake.
eat those words.
There's no time to play games. You won't even get the chance. I'm the coolest. Oh, I see. So
Jazz getting a pretty clean Shadow 1 herself,
Do you know
Is that
while
the same time?
Tylenol has moved on to Green Forest.
Was that like the same time on the boss?
No, I think hers was faster.
So we both got 1195. Maybe I'm crazy.
Either way, as I mentioned, this is Green Forest. Definitely a troublesome stage for a lot of runners. There are 1,000,001 different things in this stage that can either slow you down or force you to lose traction from the ground. There's a lot of hills in this stage, and they don't necessarily go well with high speed. Tylenol may be giving an attempt at wall run here. I'm not sure. He didn't get the checkpoint, so I would have been very surprised if he attempted a wall run there.
Yeah.
Ooh, you got a bad light dash there, though. There's quite a few different ways that you can light dash on that circle of rings, based on your position, which is dictated by the spring. But he didn't get a very good connection there, which lost him a few seconds.
Seeing Jazz fly into the air a little bit there. Constant problem with the stage. Happens just about everywhere. It's really rough considering just how unavoidable it is sometimes. You're trying to go fast, but then you go fast, you know, at a certain area, and you just kind of get punished. It's really annoying.
So Tylenol closing out Green Forest with a 142, while Jazz is coming up to the midway point in an attempt at wall run. She just misses the loop speed trigger though, so she's bailing out and progressing through the rest of the stage normally. Definitely the correct play to make there.
Yep.
She had a little bit of a scary moment at the start of Bungee Skip there where the spin dash jump actually collided with the opposite end of the half pipe, which removed her ability to homing attack, but she thankfully got the camera to follow her fairly quickly, so that extra distance was thankfully not necessary.
Yep.
Yes!
Looks like we got down on Pumpkin Hill here.
Mm-hmm.
Just doing the works.
Three Brothers Tombstone Piece 2. This could be bad.
Yeah,
This piece is tricky.
I don't know if Tylenol knows how to deal with this or not.
He appears to know to dive. It just takes a couple of attempts to get that to happen sometimes.
Yeah.
So this could be an opportunity for Jazz to make back quite a bit of this time, since the RNG really was not friendly to Tylenol there.
Yep.
First piece is very high up. She's had this piece before, so this can lead to good piece sets. She could be going right from here to Pumpkin Mountain for piece 2, and if that's the case, there is a rocket right here on the peak that will take you right over there.
Definitely going to be utilizing that.
And the third piece, I just don't want to see King of the Hill here. There we go.
Nice piece set.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind taking this piece set in a row. Just triggering the switch there to make sure the train does not get in the way. Which is a nice tactical decision when going over to that area. And Jazz does indeed manage to save quite a bit of time. Tylenol got like over a minute, and Jazz with a 40 there, so that's at least 20 seconds saved in Jazz's favor.
Yeah. Looks like Jazz has stated that they figured out what was wrong. I'm very curious about what that statement means.
Tylenol, meanwhile, though, has managed to land his weight hop, we call it, in Mission Street. It's a very precise jump where you manage to use the hover to augment your jumping height a little bit and get on top of that weight that crashes down a cycle earlier than intended, and this can save about 10 seconds across the stage if the rest of the stage is played well. See if Jazz makes her own weight hop. And she does, with barely any pause. That pause was not on screen for very long on my end. Very nicely done.
Yeah, I think Jazz is definitely up there in the level of people, you know, like just skill level 4 pause hovers.
Mm-hmm.
Just, you know, the ability to do them so fast and so well.
She is having to make him do a half cycle though. Tylenol's making do a half cycle, I mean.
That's really unfortunate. That's gonna put her on, what, 2nd cycle pace even? Okay, she makes it up there.
Yeah, that was another nice hover jump actually to make it up that platform that was rising and falling.
I think that's probably gonna save her a half a cycle, putting her on 2nd cycle pace as opposed to 2.5. Either way, very rough considering that Tylenol got half cycle. It's going to be a probably lose her most of the time she saved in Pumpkin Hill.
Yeah, that's likely.
Oh no!
Oh man.
Oh, it looks like Jazz has just had enough.
Yeah, I think this is a resignation that we're looking at.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the case. Wow, that is certainly one way to see the end of this match.
Oh geez, it looks like her controller got changed to the wrong preset, which completely destroyed
wow,
her.
tech issues of all things. Jeez. I think then that appears to be the end of this match, and this looks like this has ended in Tylenol's favor. It seems like Jazz has resigned.
Darn.
I am really sorry to see that, honestly.
Oh, free piece on Tylenol side. Looks like we're looking at some good RNG here.
I don't know if we're going to continue to show the rest of this. I'm not sure. I mean, I assume that on Speed Gaming's end, there's nothing else scheduled in this time slot, obviously.
Looks like really sub 30 RNG here. A little bit of an execution mistake there, though. Sending a little bit
Yeah,
over
the RNG was sub 30, but the execution wasn't.
Yeah. It really goes to show just how really execution heavy these stages are. Even though they're RNG, there's definitely a lot that goes into it outside of that.
What happened was that Jazz was just making certain mistakes in Mission Street and then just decided to call it a night, as I think there was already quite a high frustration factor for her, and she just decided to call it a night. Specifically, she missed the weight elevator in Mission Street and was forced into taking what we call the walk of shame in the community. Yeah, like the controller preset was like the big overarching problem and the catalyst, but yeah, that unfortunate thing happening in Mission Street was what just finally pushed that decision.
Tails, did you find the president?
Almost, Sonic. Just a few more minutes.
I guess I will take this opportunity to update the bracket.
So basically what happens when your controller preset like that is messed up, it just completely destroys your muscle memory. There's this thing known as muscle memory, where basically you play the game a lot and you really get it ingrained into not even just your head, but also your muscles. You know, how to do a certain thing becomes second nature, right? And when your controller moves you differently, when your character no longer fits with that muscle memory, it is a humongous hurdle to overcome.
Yeah, a lot of it is really down to the control stick specifically, and it's to the point where, depending on the type of controller you use, for instance, I use an Xbox 360 controller. It's to the point where when you use a different unit of the same controller, it can feel very different. Like, I've had other runners who use Xbox 360 controllers just try to run on my controller, and they've said, like, I don't know how you can play like this, I find this unplayable. It can be the same when you try and run on a controller that you're not used to.
Right. One of the most difficult things I've ever done in this game was switching from an Xbox 360 controller to a PS4 controller. In the end, I found it to be worth it because I just enjoy the buttons and just how it feels so much more. But, I mean, to each their own, right? But it took me a good 2 months before I was able to play the game back up to the level that I was before. Or maybe not that long, more along with a month or so. It definitely did take a while to get just up to that level again.
And Tylenol is likely finding the time to type in chat, because it's worth remembering that there is quite a significant stream delay, and in the time between the stages there is actually a fair bit of downtime during which the runner can just do something else.
Yep. Yeah, this is Hidden Base. It's a really interesting stage, going over walls, because walls are a suggestion, as they say in the biz. Yeah, hover jumping, broken. Double tapping the A button is just completely destroys the game when it comes to Tails. And you can just fly over a bunch of things. Oh, it looks like Tylenol is on PB base.
Yeah. So I think this is worth just sticking with and seeing how this goes.
Yep. Got Pyramid Cave coming up here.
Yeah, it is probably the most difficult stage in the run. I think a lot of people agree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, ton of incredibly tight movement, a lot of tack as well. It's just the hallways suck. Let's be real. Like, these hallways are incredibly difficult to move efficiently through. And take, you know, hours and hours of practice to begin to understand really just how to do it. You can see them get the bounce bracelet there. They're going to be using that to do what you just saw there, which is the super bounce. We'll zoom high into the sky. Whenever you bounce in front of a wall and hit it while in the bounce state, your horizontal speed is transferred into vertical speed, which makes you go really high into the sky when you have a lot of speed. And as you can do that, you know, pretty easily, just gain a lot of speed with Sonic with Spin Dash. It comes in rather handy. And we're going to be seeing this other attribute of the bounce there. You want to explain what that was, Draco?
Super bounce?
Gravity bounce.
The gravity bounce, yeah. So, gravity is very dynamic in this game, and basically when you're on a slope, the game actually pays attention to the direction that you're facing, such as, he's not going for the gravity bounce there, but had Sonic climbed the side of that loop, the gravity does actually change to accommodate that a bit, and then if you perform a bounce after leaving that sort of slope, then the gravity will actually continue to be skewed for a little bit before resetting. In different spots it can be due to either an angle trigger or a time trigger, but it basically means that we're able to fall in some spots virtually sideways for a short amount of time, which can be used for a couple of skips, as we saw in Pyramid Cave.
Yep. We're going to be seeing that used later as well.
Saw that though. Tylenol does need to get through Death Chamber, which is definitely Knuckles' most annoying stage. It's a very wide-ranging stage, it's very convoluted, and there's just a lot of technique involved in this, including intentionally taking deaths after grabbing pieces, as we just saw there. So we've got Golden Goddess for piece 2. So the reason that he died after grabbing that piece is twofold. First of all, it allows you to teleport back to the start of the stage, and there is also a chance that you can actually get a piece that's in the red room as you respawn. When you die from green room, it's less likely, so we use that more for the teleport, but if the first piece had been in the blue room, then it's actually very good odds to get a piece in the red room when you respawn.
Ooh, 4 suns. That's a pretty uncommon piece.
This is not a common piece though, so let's see if Tylenol actually knows where this is.
He's put in a lot of practice. Looks like he's going right towards it.
Yeah, looks like he does. This is good. Definitely an uncommon piece though, so props.
Yeah, this is perfect. Huh? Who's there? What the? A ghost?
Got a Boom Boo here. It's definitely a very, very important boss to not mess up. Messing this boss up, you know, just even making one wrong move here cost you upwards of 40 seconds sometimes. It's really, really not something you want to see happen.
Yeah. You'd normally expect to just get punch per cycle and then he runs away too quickly to keep up with, but as you're seeing right here, if your movement is very precise, oh wow, it's still possible, but
it's hard. Come on, no!
Just not enough time. Yeah. Unfortunately, that is what happens. And this is unfortunately as well the worst situation to be in when going for a 2-cycle fight, since King Boom Boo's behavior does depend on his remaining health, and the attacks that he uses, such as that chomping attack and the fireball attack. The chomping attack won't happen if he's only taken 1 hit, and the fireball attack takes progressively longer based on how many hits he's taken, so this is unfortunately about as slow as the fight can be for a 2-cycle.
Right.
There's also the unfortunate side effect that Boom Boo's movement in his shadow form is a lot more erratic and difficult to deal with when he's at low health, so Tylenol could get some unfriendly patterns here. In a worst case scenario, it's actually possible for Boom Boo's shadow to leave the inbounds area completely. So sometimes it's possible for the runner to just not be able to dig him up at all because he's out of bounds.
What a hassle.
And straight from frying pan into the fire, as it were. King Boom Boo was a boss that we just saw quite a lot of time loss on, but as far as boss fights go, it's a relatively simple affair, which the same can't really be said of for this fight. Egg Golem is definitely the hardest boss fight in the game. It uses the same super bouncers that we saw in Pyramid Cave, but these platforms are incredibly narrow. And if you're trying to do a super bounce by just aiming straight up, it's about a 5-frame window per bounce. By using those fallen platforms, it's significantly easier though, so Tylenol is using those to good effect. And I'm reading in the chat now, it looks like Tylenol has agreed to a singular rematch, so that is definitely good sportsmanship.
Yep.
Looks like. In that case, I'm actually going to rescind the match result if I can.
Yeah, I do think that we can continue to have it here right now, so if not, we'll arrange something and let you guys know. Let me check the schedule.
Okay, yeah. I did... Now that Jazz says that about the game like being locked to 8-way movement, I did notice that in City Escape especially, some of her movement was just very odd. There was no real other way to put it. It was just incredibly odd.
Yeah. No, I definitely did feel like she was either just really, really not feeling good in terms of execution today, or there's something up. But it looks like there's going to be a rematch. It looks like we have the time. Hopefully the restreamer has the time.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope I have the time. I mean, yes I do?
I should have the time as well. I do need a bit of a bite to eat though. This is, you know, you gotta stay healthy. Stay hydrated, stay fed.
I'm so hungry. Yeah. I was notified about like this match starting like 3 hours ago now, and it was like, oh, are people going to be around to commentate a match in a bit? And I was like, oh yeah. And I was intending to then just go and get some food, and they were like, oh yeah, we mean now. It's starting now.
No, you can do that right now. Actually, I think I got this. Not having more than one race to commentate would definitely help.
All right. If you're sure, I'll be back in like 5. I literally just need to go and grab some. So I'll be back in 5 minutes.
Yeah, do it right now. And, I'll explain the rest of Eternal Engine.
All right.
Yeah, anyways, basically, there's a few movement things that we had not mentioned just due to, you know, we were talking about things that were relevant. Anyways, you notice that he just went out of bounds. That's pretty cool. Game takes priority for the object collision over the wall collision, allowing him to force himself out of bounds with enough speed. The game has to choose which one, and as it prioritizes objects, walls aren't real. That's all I gotta say. You're just going to see him fly to the end. So one thing that the attentive viewer may have noticed is that they were jumping in front of the doors. That's to slow themselves down a little bit so they don't just run full force into those doors. If you do that, you tend to just be too fast to be able to get through them, and you'll just bonk and lose all your speed. It's a pretty cool thing where you just sacrifice a little bit of your speed to maintain a lot of it.
I gotta do better next time.
I don't know, if you can still PB, I'd say just give Jazz some time to warm up.
Now put that emerald.
If you can't, oh, but looks like it's too late. Oops.
Amy is.
I didn't get that, Tails. What happened to Amy? Tails.
Tails. Let's see, Meteor. I was gonna try to call the third piece for Meteor Herd, but it looks like there's no
File select.
no Meteor Herd to be seen. It may not be Donkey Kong 64, but walls are still not tangible. Yeah, we'll be getting the race started up for you in just a second here. Sorry about that. Alright, I'm taking a look at Jazz's screen. Oh, gosh. Oh, gosh. Oh, gosh. That's all I've really got to say about what's happening with her inputs here. She's demonstrating on her screen, basically what her problem was, and the game is essentially locked to 4 directions. Or sorry, my bad, 8 directions. It's getting stuck incredibly, like in all of the corners of there, and just kind of like barely able to move between them. It is pretty much essentially a directional movement. Like, yeah, this is not good. We're doing, I believe we're waiting on the race to begin. Currently Jazz's screen is not being captured. Oh, it looks like Jazz's game is back up on screen. It's going to be starting pretty soon. Looks like a little bit of bonding over Melee in the chat. It's nice.
All right, I am back and ready.
While you were gone, it looks like Tylenol had restarted.
Let's
Just,
see.
you know, looks like he came back just in time for the race to be starting to get off the ground again. I think Jazz might be showing off what was happening with her inputs. I did happen to take a pop into her stream and look at it, and it was not good. I honestly don't understand how she did as well as she did with the inputs being the way they were. Although I'm not sure if she's doing that. Oh. Oh, it looks like, never mind. Looks like the race is just starting off the ground. Never mind about showing anything here.
Yep,
yeah.
we have indeed begun.
To give you an idea of what was happening with Jazz's inputs, is that essentially she had like, you know when you put a controller up left, right? And then you put it to the far right, right? The area in which she had between those was like maybe a sixth of what the controller actually has.
Wow.
So like it was basically snapping to far right as soon as possible. It was nearly just 8-directional. So.
But yeah, so this is now going to hopefully be, really this time, the final race of the night. And I can't tell on Jazz's end what's happened.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Well, it's I really have to say one thing then. In the event that CE skip goes on to count, and Jazz does indeed end up taking this, then massive respect points to Tylenol for the sportsmanship of allowing this rematch, because, you know, that CE skip may go on to seal the deal and actually put this in Jazz's favor.
Especially considering, you know, Tylenol, he had gotten CE skip last race as well.
Exactly.
Like, it was totally possible for Tylenol to just walk away with this win, but being the good man that he is, he's,
yeah, just respect to him for that.
Yep. Everybody, post your, respect emote, whatever that is. People have those in the chat for Tylenol.
I'll post mine.
I guess this is probably as close as I've got. I don't know.
Yes!
But yeah, that was City Escape. We didn't explain anything, but they went fast. Now this is Bigfoot. They're going to be jumping on the front box in top left and just kind of bopping on their head until Bigfoot dies. Or that can happen. And causing a restart there, leveling out a little bit for Tylenol.
This game of
You know, a little bit in Tylenol's favor with that.
I mean, okay, it's still a race.
Finally decided to show up, eh? Okay, bring it
Monitor
on!
Bigfoot reporting to headquarters. Intruder has been located.
Copy that.
Definitely still in Jazz's favor overall, I would say. I mean, I've been saying that before, but just looking at them purely in terms of players, then I still give the advantage to Jazz overall, I would say, in terms of experience and overall skill.
Hey guy, take care.
Inside the stone statue storage. That's a place.
Yeah, so these are the Knuckles stages. If you haven't seen these before, the objective of these stages is just to find 3 pieces of the Master Emerald that are strewn throughout the stage. They are randomly generated, and there's about 100 different locations per stage, and the runners simply have to use hints to help them find where these pieces are.
Ooh, he's going the wrong way. Tylenol went the wrong way. He read that as just bird box instead of a bird box in the in
In the shade? Oh.
Yeah, that my mouth broke. Oh, I'm going the wrong way again.
Yeah, these sorts of memory lapses can lead quite a bit of time. This is just a bit of a... I wouldn't say like a bit of a meltdown. This is just more of, like I say, I think a lapse in memory and concentration that's causing this right now.
Incredibly unfortunate, though.
This is really one of the worst hints as far as how it's named, though, because if you didn't already know, I would definitely not blame anyone for thinking that something called a bird box in the shade is down in the bottom of the stage where it's shady.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that makes
there's not
sense, don't you
even
think?
shade there. Yeah, and it makes a lot more sense to be down there. There's no shade. It's just like next to a pillar.
Mm-hmm.
If anything, it's casting shade. SMH my head right now, RN.
So really, this started off as a difficult disadvantage for Tylenol to play against, with not having gone CE skip, and it's not getting any easier for him yet. Things can still swing the other way, as we've seen tonight. Anything can happen, but it's definitely all going in Jazz's favor right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Basically, what happened was Tylenol had agreed to a rematch after Jazz had basically been playing with, 8 directional input the entire time. And having realized that and messed up a lot, she had forfeited. But Tylenol, being the very, very, very nice man he is, had a rematch. So that's what is happening right about now. Prison Lane, body by the beetle, but didn't get knocked off. It's better than last time that happened. Oh no! Okay. Okay. Tylenol successfully avoiding both the deaths he has seen in Prison Lane tonight in one run. I apologize for the chair squeak, but yeah, that was impressive.
So it looks to me like Jazz is maintaining something like a 30 to 35 second lead in Prison Lane. Aside from a death happening near the start of the stage, that's definitely more time than can be expected to be made up across the stage, so Jazz is going to maintain this lead for the foreseeable future. It's entirely possible that that lead could disappear in Metal Harbor, but we will just have to see what happens. And Jazz is generally quite a strong Metal Harbor player from what I've seen.
This is an official rematch because of the controller issues Jazz was having.
And yeah, this is being treated as the final game for the bracket. This is the deciding game for the best of 3. And Tylenol had all but won that previous race, which was then cancelled, so he is putting his progression on the line for this, for the sake of giving a fair game.
That was easy.
And so far, it looks like it may end up costing him. So, if worst comes to worst for him, at least, he will have the consolation of knowing that he made an extremely sporting gesture. Like I'd said in the server Discord that like whatever happens with the actual tournament results, there's definitely a sportsmanship award. It can be said for Tylenol for doing this.
Yep. Yeah, this is Metal Harbor. Danger, danger, over a pit. It's just, giant death pit. Don't want to touch it. Very easy to touch it considering you're jumping very, very far over it. But, it's bad stuff. As you can tell, my commentary has devolved into incredibly layman terms, but I'll do my best to try to at least keep you informed of what's happening.
We've already seen the most part of 3 races today. It's maybe to be expected. At the same time, it's like we shouldn't assume, I suppose, that everybody here has seen the previous races and is familiar with the game. But a lot of this game can tend to explain itself at the same time.
Definitely some stuff that just looks like, wait, what just happened?
Yeah, that's true.
Right. In fact, we're coming up with a stage, you know, that can have any amount of those things happening because vertexes are fun little creatures to deal with.
Absolutely.
But before we get to that, let's not get ahead of ourselves. We've got Shadow 1.
Barely made it.
Fast fight.
Phew. So far, so good. Hey, that's...
That blue hedgehog again of all places.
I found you. Faker.
Indeed, getting a pretty fast fight. Getting under 12 seconds for Shadow is pretty nice there. Shadow's AI can... I mean, it's predictable and at the same time it can be very unpredictable since he more or less reacts entirely to your inputs and actions. So if you manage to play entirely consistently, then you can expect the same thing each time. But it's pretty easy for that fight to get out of control. And just finishing inside of 12 seconds is definitely a good result. Possible to finish it inside of 11 seconds, but you basically need to use tat strats to manage that.
Sub 11 is not something you really be seeing every day.
I mean, if I'm running, then maybe.
Mr. Fancy Boss Guy who saves half a second.
It's about a quarter of a second, thank you very much.
My bad, I gave you a little bit too much credit.
Exactly. Careful with that. So Jazz, meanwhile, has entered Green Forest, so Sonic's, I was going to say second stage, it's not, it's Sonic's third stage. And as Piner mentioned before, this is vertexes all over the place, just spots where 2 angles or polygons join, it's the adjoining point between them, and that can cause a lot of really awkward things to happen.
Yeah. Maybe it wasn't Tails who wanted to fly high after all. I guess it might be Sonic.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like Jazz going for wall run and unfortunately missing it. Or I guess in Tylenol's case, fortunately.
The wall run is one of the most difficult tricks in the run, though. There is a lot of different things going on to... Oh, wow. Yes, there's just a lot of different constituent parts of the wall run, and one thing going wrong can cause the entire thing to fall apart, so Jazz was really just lucky to be able to bail out without any further time loss.
Yeah, that was a really unfortunate death, though, for Tylenol. It just flopped right in that water. Hedgehogs can't swim. Okay.
It almost happened again. Oof, the camera on that skip is uncooperative to say the least.
Oh man, that made my heart stop for a second.
This is kind of just the state of running this game, though. This is the sort of risk that runners find themselves at almost every opportunity. Meanwhile, this is Pumpkin Hill. This is Knuckles' second stage, and it's where the runners get the shovel claws. So this will allow them to dig underground to dig up additional pieces. Jazz's first piece is at the top of Pumpkin Mountain. Not an especially friendly place to get a first piece, but really the time will depend on the other 2 pieces that she gets. 3 Metal Barrels piece 2 is a fairly uncommon piece, which is always going to be over here at Ghost Train Mountain. And I feel like she should at least get a decent third piece with this. I feel like. I may be wrong, but we'll see. Center of a triangle. Yeah, I'd run with that.
Nice.
Wrong triangle, but there we go. So coming out with a 44. So that's a pretty average Pumpkin Hill time. Like, I wouldn't be overly thrilled with that in a run, but I could live with it in a run, I think.
Yeah.
This place sure feels haunted.
I like.
There's no
I
time
would have
to
liked that,
lose.
definitely.
I have to hurry and find the Master Emerald.
Let's see how Tylenol does. And at the same time, Jazz is entering Mission Street. So Tylenol has what some people consider to be a very good piece, others consider to be a very bad piece. In this case, it's an atrocious piece. Double containers is at 3 possible locations, and Tylenol got the worst one.
Yep.
So this is definitely not a good start.
I don't know how he didn't read the hint there, but that works.
I think it was because he was facing away from the hint box.
I mean, I've done the exact same thing before, and it still read it. Maybe it's just
Interesting.
because he was rubbing so close up to the box there. Awesome.
Both runners getting center of a triangle for the last piece. So, wow, I'm not entirely sure how, but Tylenol is actually coming out with a 2-second faster of a Pumpkin Hill after getting that first piece. That's quite surprising, actually.
Look, mate, we have like a few golden emotes, alright? We've got Get Good, we've got Get Good at Bosses, we've got That Feeling Good RNG and That Feeling Bad RNG.
We've got this.
That's not an FFC emote, though.
We've got this.
That's an FFC emote, though.
Yeah. Anyway, speedruns. There's speedruns happening. Jazz, unfortunately, going with another walk of shame in this mission street. Honestly, her whole approach towards that switch doesn't appear to me to be particularly conducive. But, I mean, if she's normally comfortable with it, then it is what it is. It just seems a little odd to me to approach it from the top. So the idea behind this stage overall, Mission Street, is that it is a very cycle-based stage. Until the runners reach the point that Jazz actually just got past with the rising and falling drums, everything is for the purpose of reaching that section by a certain point so that you can hopefully catch a fast cycle. Tylenol, I believe, just had... didn't see it entirely, was it like a 54 checkpoint? And if so, that means that he is currently on first cycle pace. Either way, it looks like he's just about missed the back end of the cycle. That drum going up and down at the back is what the runners hope to gain. So instead he is, just about clutching and going up the front end instead. And Jazz, meanwhile, is starting her aquatic mine. And this is a stage that some runners really like, others really don't like. I'm not a particularly big fan of it myself.
I like it unless I'm playing bad.
To its credit, it is a fairly small stage, like there's not too much ground to need to cover, but some of the piece locations can be incredibly awkward to actually get to. Jazz using a interesting route here to get to jail window. So hopefully she just doesn't get a piece 3 like dented ceiling.
I did it!
Dig under the triangle skull. I'd take that.
Yeah. Very, very smooth. Nice. Average RNG here.
Yeah.
Nothing to complain about.
That was a little tough.
Like, I could certainly understand wanting to get better than a 43 in Aquatic Mine, but considering there were no really awful pieces thrown at it, I think she'll still be okay with that.
Yep. And with that, we've got Tylenol entering Aquatic Mine of his own. Let's see if we can see any free pieces in this opening cutscene. I didn't see any. Ooh, a little bit of a movement mistake there. We got Jazz in Route 101, the drift stage where you drift a lot. Okay, first piece. Yeah, and just notice that Jazz is drifting a lot. like I said she would. The reason for this is that it changes your speed cap from the just normal speed cap to the speed that you get when you boost with a little ring boost there. Ooh, a free piece. This
Yo,
one is
very
really
nice.
annoying to go for.
Yeah, Tylenol getting the main pillar there. That's quite an uncommon piece, and it's quite easy to miss as well.
Props for seeing that. Yeah, 43 on Tylenol side as well. On Jazz side, continuing that drift, just, you know, got to make sure to maintain as much speed as you can. If you hit things like cars, walls, or even if you go uphill, you'll slow down still. It's not like it gives you infinite speed. But it does keep you at that boost speed as long as none of those things happen.
The president must be over there. Let's go. I'm getting closer.
Yeah, really not much to talk about here. It's best out of 3 single Elam.
Tails.
So whoever loses this match is out.
Almost, son.
Yeah, that's right.
Just a few more minutes.
So being that we are essentially halfway through the run at this point, Route 101 is like the halfway point. Jazz does have quite a significant lead, being that she is out the stage and about to enter hidden base right now.
Hidden base is pretty interesting for a variety of reasons, like walls aren't real, and walls aren't real, and walls aren't real.
In essential terms, yeah. Hidden base does start what we call the trifecta of desert stages, and these are pretty much the most difficult stages in the run. It's somewhat a matter of opinion, but a lot of runners really agree on that. Hidden base is just a very technical tail stage. Pyramid Cave for Sonic is seen by everyone as pretty much being the most technical stage in the game, and Knuckles' Death Chamber is definitely the one that has the most to learn out of any of the hunting stages.
Ooh,
Oh,
that's
wow.
rough. That's really gonna even the lead here.
Yeah, that is actually a surprisingly costly death on Jazz's part.
Just hold, what, 48 seconds including respawn?
Approximately that, yeah, wow.
Jesus. Going for pole jump again and missing it. Pole jump requires a frame-perfect A-press after the unpause, which sounds intimidating, but once you really do get used to it after a fair bit of practice, you can tend to get it pretty consistently. Okay, Jazz making a
just
smart
seems to be
choice.
struggling with her hover jumps right now.
Yeah, bailing when, knowing that she won't make it here. Very smart. Well, that's definitely going to cost her some time. Oof, whole 10 seconds of it. Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, this is actually allowing Tylenol to rapidly catch up,
Yeah.
because there are quite a lot of these hover jumps that Tylenol doesn't even bother to pulse buffer for. He feels pretty confident about going for them without the pulse buffers. That is a very difficult pause jump that Jazz just made though, so that was nice.
Yeah. Tylenol opting to just play it safe and knock that down. We saw him do that in the other runs. Seems to be their preferred strat. Don't blame them at all. It's a pretty silly jump that can really lose some time if you miss it.
Jazz now continuing to actually make some tightly placed hover jumps, so although the start of the stage was pretty rough, this is generally going quite a bit better now. Second try getting to this pulley, but with a clean end of the stage now, then she can still close out with fairly decent time. It should still be in the region of about 2 minutes.
Yeah, okay. I was a little bit worried there just seeing what happened at the beginning, that she would be greedy there and then it would end up nipping her own bud, but it looks like everything's fine. Especially because she was rubbing against the wall, that's usually a bad noise. Oh, a death on
Tylenol
Tylenol
taking his own major death. Wow.
Really gonna cost him a lot of the time he could have made up here.
So about that time gap being shortened.
Rough stuff. Yeah, we've got Jazz and Pyramid Cake getting a 12 check. Demonstrates very good movement on the opening section.
Yeah, 12 is, without absolute movement optimization, about the best you can expect to get in that section. It is possible to get in 11, but that requires virtually task-like movement.
I've seen like 3 11s, and none of them were in runs. They were all in individual level.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit rough here after, you know, to get to and a little bit after grabbing the bounce bracelet, but bouncing through the rail is not good. Making it up there with the super bounce is nice.
Yep, managed to back up onto it again, which is nice. I did mention that this is pretty much the most difficult stage in the game, regardless of which character it belongs to. Like, this is the most difficult Sonic stage, but it's generally just the most difficult stage overall.
Mm-hmm.
There's just a lot of room for a lot of errors in this stage, being that almost every element of this stage involves some sort of technical trick or like mechanic exploit.
That was
Very nice, directly landing on the snake there though.
Smooth, and I appreciated that a lot.
Straight into a gravity bounce, like super bounces and gravity bounces in this stage galore, using the bounce bracelet upgrade.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of unintended side effects to it.
Yep. Saw Tylenol go through a hole there. It looks like he went through a wall, when in fact, he went through a hole. It's actually a Sonic-sized hole in the wall there. You just barely squeezed through.
That last gravity bounce from Jazz looked really scary there, but she got there, so all's well that ends well.
Yep. It's like a really rough opening and a very smooth end. Well, actually, no, never mind. She fell in the pit. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Let's see if Tylenol can try and keep pace. Both runners actually falling in the pit then. Wow. Jazz came out of that stage with approximately a 150, and it looks like Tylenol's going to get a similar time if the rest of this is clean. He can still die here. Oh, okay, once again, he's just choosing not to get greedy by going for that last gravity bounce, and he's just gone for safety.
Yeah.
I mean, fair enough.
Can't blame. Looks
This
like
can be a potential turning point in the run, though. It needs to be said.
Yeah, Death Shiver in the middle of Red Eyes. It's a first
Jazz
piece.
taking a death strat now. The objective here is that the game is always going to give you a piece 2 that is at least moderately far away from where your piece 1 was.
Oh
And
gosh.
the blue room is very far away from your starting location, the red room. So if you got a first piece in there, how many Gorilla's hideouts does the game want to give?
We'll see if it gives a whole 4. Okay, it's not 4.
So basically, Jazz was repeatedly dying in the hope of getting a piece in the red room when she respawned. Unfortunately, she never actually got one. And now she's got a piece that she's having to use a clip art to get to. Well, she doesn't have to, but it's just significantly faster. She could get lucky and get a piece 3 in the blue room, though. Unlikely from where the piece 1 was, though. Yeah, wow, these piece locations are not very friendly, unfortunately.
I can't say I agree with Tylenol's route to get to Fire Dance.
Oh,
but
very nice hint monitor clip.
I appreciate this.
Can this work? Oh, that's a really creative use of a clip. I'm actually impressed.
Good stuff.
Yeah, not bad at all.
Really sped up the process of getting over there.
It's over.
I imagine a lot of other runners would probably be pulling a 120, or probably even more after that. Ooh, this is a fun hint name. Go up, then left, then right by the wind power.
Yep. Also known as this piece is very difficult to grab.
Moving pieces are bully. Bless you.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is perfect.
We got Boom Boo. This boss could potentially shift the lead. This boss is pretty simple
Who's there?
in theory, but in execution it's really easy to mess up.
What the?
Any one little thing will cost you an entire 40 seconds, and you can feel that pressure here. Looks like a very smooth first cycle there. Not quite getting a 45, or 46. 47. Not bad. Not bad at all. Looks like very smooth. Okay. Ooh, nice first super bounce there. Those are very tough. Ooh. Good second super bounce. Using the lowered platform makes that a lot less precise, which is definitely a nice thing to have. Although a little bit of trouble getting back up on there. We got Tauna going into his own. Ooh, very smooth first hit as well.
Yeah, King Boom Boo is a relatively simple boss fight, but the same definitely can't be said for this boss.
Yeah. I'm failing this middash off the arm. Oh, I'm very surprised he didn't just go to the back there.
Yeah.
Tauno's side.
I would have advised that myself. This is a boss that can definitely punish the player for getting too greedy on.
Mm-hmm. 47. Not bad, not bad. And see what Tauno closes off with as well.
He looks like he is managing to get the arm spin dash jump, which is not easy, so very nice. And he's getting a similar time, 48.
Nice try, Rocky.
Yep. Why was there even a decision about like why was it put on Chris to decide whether to rematch or not? Shouldn't the TO decide that? The thing is, it was one of those things where Jazz was playing at an incredibly high disadvantage, and basically the reason that we left it up to Tylenol was that we just felt that it was really his decision. Like, I think both Draco and I felt that really in that kind of situation, it really should be left up to the runner who will win due to it to decide.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because it would not be fair of us to say one way or the other for this. Like, if we just made Tylenol, rematch, and they really didn't want to, then they had that win, right? Totally would have been fair for them not to want to rematch, and that would just be kind of really imposing. And still, vice versa, with not allowing them to, even if both of them wanted to, that would really just kind of, I feel, leave a bad taste in each of their mouths. But this is Eternal Engine. We're coming up on skipping the entire rest of the level on Jazz's side, and pretty close behind on Tylenol's.
Jazz already has closed out her Eternal Engine, and Tylenol struggling a little with his clip out there, so definitely giving a little bit of time back there. That clip out is not easy, and there are a couple of different approaches that runners go for it, either using a positional setup or using what the runners did there, which is just using the door to try and push you out of bounds.
Well, it looks like trying to take the restart there, but looks like they're out of lives. So Jet's gonna have to just deal with this first piece. It's not very good.
I did it! I gotta do better next time.
Yeah, as Xenon said, really what's expected to happen next match after this one is it's very highly expected in Seraphim's favor due to just the sizable skill gap between either of the runners and Seraphim. So in the end, like I'm kind of in the same situation. I'll be racing Draco next. And I just really wanted to have, you know, the best race that I could on my first race, because I know that I can't really hold a candle to him. That was a good response.
So Tylenol coming up to his second piece now, black boxes on the black platform. This is like right up at the top of the stage, and it's not too convenient to reach on its own, but it's likely that he'll be able to get some decent third pieces from here, as it's generally very quick and easy to just come straight down after grabbing a piece. He's opting to get the hint that's right up here though. And he's coming just straight back down for dig while watching the stars.
It's close.
Which he has found fairly quickly, and he's coming up with a time of 54.
I found him.
Yep.
Overall, not an amazing Meteor Herd time, but hey, these things happen, and Meteor Herd can give a lot of good piece sets, but it can also give some really bad piece sets. And as I mentioned, black boxes on the black platform is generally not viewed as being a very good piece.
Yeah.
This is Jazz's big opportunity to try and close out this race and this match, though. She is coming up to what is going to be, for both runners really, the biggest skip in the game. For Tylenol, he's just going to be going for Crazy Gadget skip, but for Jazz, she's going to be going for Crazy Gadget skip, which skips the skip. And it is definitely the most technical and difficult skip that she's going to attempt in this run.
Looks like a
Hit
first
the kill plane.
death.
Yep. She's on
One
her
last
last
try.
life now.
Ooh, if she misses this, then that's really just gonna put them neck and neck.
Alright, she needs this.
Oh,
Okay, she's out. Last time she got out, I believe she was like too high, I remember. Looking good. Nice.
Oh, nice.
Second try CGSS with 0 lives remaining. That is as close as she could have possibly managed. But this means that she does maintain the lead going into the last couple of bosses and the last stage of the run. So this is a really good opportunity for Jazz to clinch this match. Tylenol, meanwhile, is starting his own Crazy Gadget skip. This is the simpler variant, I suppose you can call it, which is a bit more involved, and there are more constituent parts to it, but runners almost universally agree that this version is easier.
Yeah.
Jazz, meanwhile, has already finished Eggman 2, so with a 14-second fight, that's really nice, and so she is on to the final stage of the run, Final Rush. And just like Crazy Gadget was almost entirely skipped, the same is going to be true with Final Rush.
No!
Nice.
Tylenol, meanwhile, has just got through Crazy Gadget.
We're gonna be
So,
seeing.
Jazz
sorry.
is really not out of the woods. She is on her last life, and as I said, this is a major skip. It's not as difficult as CGSS, not by a wide margin, but it's also absolutely not a freebie. And oh wow, yeah, okay, I was gonna say I don't know why she's not just exiting out. She needs more lives.
Yeah.
So here we go. Like I said, just starting the skip is not free. You need the correct approach on the rail so that you can initiate another gravity bounce. Just like we saw in Pyramid Cave, it is possible to skew your gravity, and the objective here is to fall as horizontally as possible so that we can go around all of the kill planes in the stage and then just fall straight towards the end of the goal ring. The timing and the angles required for this are honestly quite strict, though runners practice this a lot, so now that Jazz is in motion for this, I do expect her to land it.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, that looked pretty good.
Yep. Now that she is definitely past the kill planes, this should be fine. We'll know for sure once the level comes back into view and we can gauge how much height she has, but I'm expecting this to be no problem. Just moving a little to the right there just to make sure she doesn't hit a kill plane. But she is in pretty much exactly the right spot. This is definitely going to land. And so the only thing that's standing now between Jazz and winning this game and this match, after being on the brink of just being knocked out, is beating the final boss of the run, SA2B. And all it takes is landing 5 hits. If this fight goes really well, it's over in a matter of 16 seconds. There is a lot that can go wrong in this fight though, and it's really not over until it's actually over. So Jazz is definitely going to be concentrating, not letting her guard down until the fight is totally over. I have seen very good runs from very good runners get choked on potentially the last hit of this fight. Oh, okay, Shadow putting up a fight here.
This could mean that Tylenol gets a chance to catch up.
Jazz just needs to not panic. That's the main thing. She just needs to maintain composure here. Oh my word, Shadow is being a dick right now. Just one more hit. And she's got it. Wow, that was a more tense end than I think Jazz wanted, but it's still good enough. She still has actually managed to win this match. Very nice. So yeah, I alluded to this before, but while obviously everyone owes their congratulations to Jazz for going on to win this match, I do think we do need to give special congratulations to Tylenol for being gracious enough to provide that rematch. He could have just claimed the win, taken the match, but it was a good sport, allowed a rematch on fair terms, and it has, I suppose, in his case, unfortunately, ended up costing him the match. But yeah, I'm sure we all really appreciate that gesture, and he still played really well for what it was worth.
Yeah, I mean, only a 17-second difference. That was very, very close.
That was definitely a match and a half. I mean, technically, it kind of was a match and a half, because there were more races than we intended.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope this was as much fun for everyone watching as it was for me to commentate and preside over.
Yeah, that was great fun.
I'm tired now. It is.
Thank you so much for co-calming.
It is like 4:30 a.m. here.
You should get some sleep.
I mean, I'm fine, but I will soon. But yeah, right, let me take a quick look at the schedule so I can hopefully tell you guys when we will next be back. Apparently we'll be back tomorrow with Super Denny Boy against Co-Empathy, if the schedule is not lying to me.
believe it is Telling the Truth.
Yep, Monday, April 9th, 5 p.m. EDT. So that is where we are going to go from there, and I will update the bracket now, actually. Right. Yep, that's all squared away, and I suppose we will be seeing you guys again tomorrow for the aforementioned match between Super Denny Boy and Co-Empathy. Until then, I think we are probably just going to be signing off. So, yep, I've been Dracodan, and it's been great hosting this. Hope you guys all have a good evening.
Yep, I am Piner, and I echo the same sentiment. Thank you all for watching, and thanks one last time to both the runners. Jazz won this one, but I think Tylenol won in the nice guy department for sure. Searching for the right words there. Words are hurt. But yeah.
Either way, we'll see you guys next time.
Bye bye.